Hi, welcome back to PJ Maybe. And tonight with us again is Windology and Darren. Who this time?
Hiya.
Hello.
So before we start, you want to plug anything?
Right. Well, since we last spoke, I've got a new website, which is my own name, darrenpowis.com.
We'll put the link in the description after this.
All right. Okay, if I drop it into the chat.
Yes, not a problem at all. Don't worry about that.
Job done. There it is. Thank you.
Right, and what I'll do is I'll get that and I'll put it in the description after we've finished the stream tonight.
Great, thank you.
So tonight we're on season 7, Red Dwarf. And I was looking forward to this one because there's some firsts, there's some lasts as well. Obviously, the biggest first is this is the first one that Doug wrote himself. There was a couple of other people added in, which is another couple of firsts. Yeah. But that is for when we actually hit the programs. No point actually jumping too much. So, the first one he did on his own is Ticket to Ride.
So, did they sort of both go their separate ways? Was there a falling out, or did they?
This was the one. I think it was just a case of Doug wanted to continue, but Rob actually decided he wanted to do something different initially. So that's why there wasn't a falling out as such. I think they just he just decided he wanted to do something different.
Just time for a change.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's what he wanted. He just felt it'd come to an end and he wanted to do something different. But Doug had actually wanted to continue with it because he was thinking that's why there was a 3-year gap. And he was thinking about it, but because that's why they wrote season 6, the time. Oh, what was it called? Something of time, Out of Time. That's why they wrote that one. That way it could have left it as in it could have finished. So that's why they did it. And then Doug had decided he wanted to continue it because he enjoyed it. So I don't think they'd fallen out at this point. I think it was just that they had decided to split the partnership.
Yeah.
So sort of amicable.
I think it was. It was only later on when it was still going, and then I think there was something to do with the residuals weren't coming through the way they were, and I think that's when it started getting a case of wait a minute, because the two that still wrote books separately, because after the Infinity Welcomes Careful Drivers, the both of them wrote a book following up from that, but the both of them wrote separately. So you got Backwards from Doug, I think it was, and you had what was the next one? There was the other book that Rob had wrote, and I can't even remember it off the top. I've got them on my watch list, my listen to list. I've got the audiobooks of the 4 of them. So they basically two of them wrote a book which was it was a spin-off or a continuation from Infinity Welcomes Careful Drivers. One wrote Backwards and the other one wrote, I can't remember.
Better Than Life?
Better Than Life, that's the one.
Yep.
So the two of them were basically follow-ups from that. So the two of them wrote them separately. So they still had the interest that they still enjoyed Red Dwarf. I don't think there was a big fallout. I think it was just a case of they decided to split it.
Yeah.
All right. Sadako24 said, I always thought they'd written Out of Time with a happy ending in mind, but one of them decided last minute to cut it short and ended on a cliffhanger instead.
Yeah. See, I thought they were actually leaving it that way. They were actually thinking they might not have got the next one. So they did it deliberately that it could go either way. But yeah, there it goes. They wrote Infinity Welcomes Careful Drivers and Better Than Life together. It's after that they split, one doing the Backwards and the other one doing Last Human. And it was Doug it wrote Last Human, and it was Rob it wrote Backwards. So the two of them wrote the two books, and then they split and did the ones after that, which were a follow-up.
Okay.
That's what it was. But I knew Sadako would actually know, because we were talking about this last time. So I'm glad he's in the chat. Thank you. But so what was your impressions of Ticket to Ride?
I thought it was great. I loved the sort of sideways look at the sort of Kennedy assassination thing and the jokes.
I think they were surprised. See, when they did this one, they were surprised the American audience were so
okay with it.
Okay with it, yes, because they were expecting, because it was about JFK. But I think the way they did JFK didn't they make him look bad? They made him look good. So they did.
Yeah, I thought it was done very respectfully. You know, for the person, at the same time not shying away from his downsides as well, but
yes,
you know, and his sort of hobby, shall we say, on the side. But I just thought it was hilarious the way they twisted the story around to make it look to show JFK actually has to kill himself.
Yes,
and there's a joke in there that it'll drive the conspiracy theorists crazy.
Yes.
But
you know why? See, at the end, you know why the three of them were dressed as tramps and Crichton as a cop?
Yes, isn't there? I remember something triggered in my memory, some documentary years ago about the conspiracy, and there was an alleged picture from the grassy knoll, and there was I can remember an image of cop, someone with a gun. It must have been like 20 odd years ago. I mean, it's just one of those things that's disappeared since.
I see when they actually investigated the grassy knoll. At the time, there was a cop had gone round, and there was three down and outs sleeping there, and they thought they may have been involved, so they arrested them. But in effect, they were sleeping there, and they were just hobos, and they released obviously because they had no part in it. But it was a cop who had gone round to investigate it because they didn't know where the shots came from, so they were looking round. And he'd gone round to the grass and all. Hence the reason why you've got the cop and the three of them are dressed as down and outs. And that was why, because in the actual, at the time, a cop had actually found three guys there. So I thought that was quite a nice wee jump there. What did you think of the chicken scene?
Do you mean when they were sort of being served something by by Crichton?
Yes, spearhead too. And this is really nice.
Their faces, though,
But I must admit, that one, every time I see that one, it just makes me chuckle. And it's just for the simple fact is there's something so preposterous, so and yet it's basically it makes you laugh. It's just the whole idea. Well, you sit and eat chicken, so I just thought you humanoids would actually eat anything. That's not it. But
Crichton's character, without his protocol chip, without his sort of
it's a callback to Polymorph.
Ah, right. Okay.
Yes, yes.
It was all his conscience and thing. It was taken. That's why when he was walking behind him, got ahead of me. Maybe they'll take you and leave me alone. And he's that. So it's a similar type of character, but because it wasn't ripped from him, he's basically still a wee bit more polite about it. But it's a similar effect on the character.
I was just laughing at Crichton with his with his hose attachment.
Smoking a fag and actually stirring the coffee.
He throws it over his shoulder at one point.
What I liked was the wee silly bits, like for instance when they popped the hood, the wee stick, like I would do if I'm popping the car. I basically put the thing up to because especially in America or newer cars, you get ones where you pop them up and they actually the spring is part of the hinge. Whereas here we've always popped up and put the bracket up to hold it.
One of my first cars, I had to do that. You had to put the little arm up.
I've still got that. My Duke's still got that. And my Duke's not that old, but it's still got that.
The gag still worked. It was good.
It did. I just thought very well done. It's just even when he's taking heads off. But I think the two who played Lee Harvey and JFK, I thought they actually did an okay job as well because even the Lee Harvey, he didn't look. They didn't make him look like a wee weirdo, like a wee sneaky, but he just looked like a normal guy going into the deposit. But I must admit, the bit where they're going, I've got something here, and pulling at him, and the legs going back out the window, pulling at him, and they all get him. When he's standing around that giant pizza, that's not a giant pizza.
Yeah.
Where do you eat the fat get a podium?
But that was pure slapstick, and it worked so well,
Definitely. Even the bit when the cat he's going to let me have a look. I'm good with these things. Bang, bang, bang. It slides down and crashes his fingers. And the thing is, that happened to me, believe it or not.
No way.
So I see when I saw that, I go, oh. I remember there was once I used to, it was only one up. So I basically, on the first floor, I was outside my window cleaning the windows, and it was a slide down windows. And there was a tall one, so the big window at the top, the small one, the bigger window, the same size window at the bottom. So the big, tall windows. And I was cleaning them. I was standing on the ledge, holding on. And then I decided I needed to pull that one down. So I just tapped with my foot. And as I was holding on, and it just slipped, and both sets of my fingers got caught. And I could not pull the thing down. I couldn't push the window up. So I'm standing there on a ledge. Nobody in the house.
Oh, my God.
Oh my God!
I had to ask a neighbour who I saw passing if he would come in and kick my door in. So he had to kick my door in, and then he's got the window and saying, "Are you ready?" I says, He says, "Don't go." As soon as I pull this up, because I would have going way back, and I decided. So I had to hold on as he just lifted it up, and it just my fingers, blast a plaster all down my whole 8 fingers. So every time I see that bit where it's sliding down his fingers, I always remember. Ow, I've had that before, and I can appreciate that can be really sore. So that's just a bit about me, but it's just that I always find it funny about that. Have you noticed a lot of the episodes, they had not so much themes, but they had sort of twisted themes or twisted sayings in a lot of the episodes. Like this one was instead of Ticket to Ride, it was Tika to Ride.
Yeah, I did notice that. Yeah. They had some cool titles for this series.
Yes.
This whole season, rather.
And even things like when they didn't have one, they always had something in it. Like, he ain't heavy, he's my brother.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So I noticed that throughout this season that they seem to have more of somebody sitting there going, you can make a joke of that, you can make a joke of that, or add that in and do this. And I thought it was very good. But did you notice the mistakes right at the beginning?
Really?
Well, first of all, it wasn't a mistake, but basically they explained what happened, because obviously there was a 3-year gap, and they used the camera to explain it. But remember, when they were showing that, Rimmer has run up to the time travel machine with a bazookoid, and he fired it, so it was implied it was part of the engine.
Yeah.
The thingy, so he blew it up, but the new time travel machine was about that size.
Yes, that's right.
And they've changed it from a time travel machine to a time and space travel device.
Mm.
Remember,
they
could not actually travel in space, because remember, they went back in time from 3 million years to 1421. And they looked out and says, we're still in deep space in 1421. We've just travelled in time. We cannot travel in space as well. Yeah. And this one, he says, right, take us to Earth. So why didn't he actually just go, we can go back to Earth? Let us go back to Earth a year after we left. Instead of, because that would have ended the season. That would have ended the whole show. I've got this thing. I was like, I can go back to Earth with it, because he went back to Earth with it. Just so went back to a time where they could get a curry. Why did they need to actually leave Earth again?
Yeah. There's some things that are like better left unscrutinized to keep it.
Yes, because if they actually had that, and he says about going back and getting a curry and going to this place, and you're sitting there thinking, have they thought that through? Because in effect, he's wanting to get back to Earth, so he could go back to Earth at any point.
Well, they could have gone back to Red Dwarf and tried to prevent the radiation leak in the first place.
Yeah. Exactly. It's basically, there was so much they could do with it, but it was, the fact is, I thought that was because of that. It was just such a glaring hole. You knew fine well later on that would have happened, because, pardon me, because their future selves said they dined with Hitler and Caligula and all that. So they knew fine well at some point they could travel in time and in space, and they had decided just to travel in time, not to go back to Earth, and it was just a case of did what they wanted to do. But that was a case of they could do that, but they couldn't from that point. But it went back and they suddenly could. Yeah. And I thought it's a wee bit.
If you have a look in the chat, Sadako has put a couple of comments up as well that are interesting.
Right, let's see. That one. Seems like the story was hinting at an out and supposedly continued fallout of history changing that killed himself and Almighty. Yeah, see, that is well, right? They were talking about the paradox and things that could happen and stuff like that. That's why they affected Crichton, used Spearhead 2 and took out his morality chip. It basically, and then that's what caused all the problems, hence the reason why he got beat up at the end. But they including changing the timeline and reality, so they decided there's too much problems with it. So including changing the timeline and reality, so that even the time drive itself was changed. I think what the problem was that it looked like a good idea for a good story, but they didn't think about it.
Yeah.
And it's just something it bothered me, and I can understand why they've did it. And he's obviously said they need the possibility now that the future Red Dwarf crew never interact with historical figures, and they might change the future develops, including their time. But yes, that's what they've mentioned anyway, because they said they didn't want to do it because they didn't want to turn out like their future selves. So
yeah,
then they actually book Crichton's Chip to basically talk him into doing it, and then look at the problems. So they could have got around that and turning around as soon as they get back, smashing it up to say that shows that we can't even. But it was just the fact that they beat him up. But it was one of the things when now they've sorted it, why didn't they just move forward in time? To me, it was clumsy because yes, it gave a good story, but so all the things they were saying they were thinking about this and that. The problem is it could have ruined it because then they can't keep going on about how he wants to get back to Earth and he wants to do this and he wants to do that because
he had the opportunity.
I just want to do what I want to do. I don't care anymore because they had the opportunity to do it.
Yeah. Well,
that was the big thing I noticed about this episode, and it didn't take me out. It didn't make it less funny. It's just something I thought, oh, they've done something that, if in effect, they could finish at the end of this episode, and that was it sorted. They've got back to Earth. Ta-da! Here we go.
Yeah, this is the thing with sort of time travel and time travel devices. I mean, it's a concept I love in fiction, but if you think about it too much, really, it can undermine your story completely.
Well, being on the Captain's channel and listen to his time one, this is definitely one of the ones that he would talk about, but he would also agree with parts of it because they created alternate timelines. And that's the thing. So, because they talk about alternate dimensions rather than they've changed the future, they're stuck in an alternate dimension. Yeah. So they're implying that although they went back in time, now it's an alternate dimension unless they can fix it, and it puts them back in the track for their dimension. So, time travel once can be difficult because you need to watch because it can resolve too many past issues or future issues because there's so much that they go on to do.
Yes. That's why you've got to be careful with time travel. But something I'm sort of in the process of writing and working on at the moment, my new story. It hit a point where I hit an issue with the time travel aspect of it. And then I realized then something I'd done completely undermined something else in my story. So I've had to go back and completely rethink it.
Yeah, I feel like a raging alcoholic after trying to write that.
I love the concept, but sometimes when you sort of get into it too deeply, it sort of fries your brain a bit.
It can, because you think about it, you just any movie, TV show, anything. There's always something that you think, I was really good, and that's the point. I don't think there's any time travel one you can have that doesn't have a but in it because time travel is just so convoluted because it doesn't matter how well you write it, somebody's going to go, have you thought of this? And you go,
Exactly.
Because there's so many twists and turns. It's like the Captain, he says that there's only 3 possibilities. One, there's only one timeline. So if you go back in time, it's already happened. So it makes no difference what you do because you've already gone back and done it anyway. So it's basically you're not changing anything.
Yeah, predestination.
So if you intend to go back and kill your grandfather, then as soon as you go back in time, you know you've already failed because your grandfather didn't die. So it doesn't matter what you think you're trying to do. It won't happen because what's already happened has happened. Or the alternative is if you go back in time and kill your grandfather, you're not changing your future. You're creating an alternate timeline. So it has to be multiple. So the multiple universe theory comes in there. So you've got either one universe and nothing can change if you go back in time, or you get the multiples that when you go back and change something, you don't change it for yours, you change it for the next timeline where you were never born. So you could still survive because you're from a different timeline. And that's how to do with it. And Then the other one is it's a mixture of both, so you can change things, but it just writes itself because there's basically it's either it's already happened, or if you change it, then your timeline's broken and you have to live in it. So something's caused you to be born anyway to go back, and it's hence the reason the paradoxes.
Yes.
But it's a because I was watching I can't even remember what it was. It was doing what would have happened if they did a Back to the Future 4, and he was given just a scenario, and it was about going back in time and doing the changing of the timelines and all that. It was actually quite interesting, but even then, with the Back to the Future franchise, anything you can think and sit there and think, I can pick holes in that because, and it's just simple fact is because it's time travel. No matter how well you think it through, somebody else is going to come up with something you probably hadn't thought of. Like, for instance, the DeLorean. They dug out the DeLorean. It'd been there for how many years? How many decades?
Yeah.
And nothing had rusted. Silly things like that. Time actually acts on the device. So if you imagine just leaving your car sitting outside your house for 10 years, what would it be like? Would you be able to actually push it because all the wheels had seized? Because it's these silly things like that. Because as soon as you've got time involved, bummer.
Yes.
But that was the thing I noticed right at the beginning, and I thought, because even Sudoku said there that they could have actually realised they could have just gone home and ended it right there. But no. And do you know why they actually used the paradox thing about the dimensions on the ship? Don't you?
Why is that?
Well, I don't know if it's. I suddenly seen this Starbug suddenly seems to be a lot bigger on the inside. I noticed than it was.
Do you know what it was? What I'd heard, somebody could correct me if I was wrong, but I'd heard that one of the what do you call them? The guys that go and look for filming, the location coordinator, had seen these two big, like the wind turbine where they do tests, and they just looked futuristic, and they wanted to film in it. So they actually came up with the idea, let's say Starbug's big so they can film in these two fantastic futuristic looking locations, and they can justify for saying that Starbug's just the dimensions inside are bigger to accommodate it because they wanted to film in those places because they looked so futuristic, and there was no thing they could think of to justify filming there. So it was the location that actually led to a part in the story.
That's interesting.
That makes sense.
You think about it because look at the Terry Pratchett's the first one, the Color Magic.
Yep.
You ever seen it? There's the part where the partition is sitting in his office and there's all the weaponry around it, and they'd asked him, is that just somebody's office? They just kitted it out, and they said no. The only thing they had to do was bring the camera crew in because that was somebody's office, and it was the guy's office who was in charge of the military museum, and I can't even remember where it was. I don't think it was London, but that was his office. So all those weapons around the wall were always there. His desk was always there with all this stuff around him. So somebody had seen it and says, we need to film there. And just so happened that they had to film the partition, and somebody said, that's the perfect place for him. And that's because I have seen this location. I've always wanted to film there, and he would work there. But they didn't need to change anything. The whole setup was already there. I think they only had to change it, like they put quills in the desk instead of pens, something like that. So the whole thing was already there. The backdrop, the lot. And I think that's what they did with this one. The backdrops were just so iconic. They just thought, we need to use them. So it is. But it just goes to show they can make an interesting concept just because they want to use a specific location.
Yeah, that's right. It's like the reverse. They pick the location and then they write the story around it.
Yeah.
But with Ticket to Ride, I think it's definitely same again. They always put the stronger episodes right at the beginning. I think out of this season, that was probably the strongest episode.
Yeah.
There was a couple other ones which were really good, but I don't think they would have worked as a starter again.
Yeah, I would say so. I think it's definitely one of the strongest, if not the strongest episode of the series. But I definitely have others that I really, really liked for different reasons, you know.
Oh, I can understand that.
Yeah.
Because it's just the exact same. It's the case of there's so much of it that I think it was just a case of, I've already said there was some episodes I thought could have been better. And I think I can understand why aspects of it I wasn't as keen on. But there was none of them I could think that, I could bypass that episode. There's one.
That's it.
There was one a couple of seasons ago I could just skip past because it was Angels and Demons. I wasn't really interested in it. Some really funny parts in it, but it was something that if I missed it, wouldn't bother me. Whereas there's none of them in this season, I would think I'm okay to skip that one if I've run out of time, because they were all funny, even though some of them were annoyingly funny.
Yeah.
However, the second episode, I would say technically it had a last, but it didn't really, because Ace Rimmer stoked me a clipper.
Yeah. I liked this one. I
liked it as well. And it had some great guests in it. It had Brian Cox and Sarah Alexander.
That's right, yeah. That's right.
I mean? Even old, what do you call him? Ken Moorley. I remember him from Coronation Street. Sorry, Coronation Street.
That's right. You know, I thought he seemed familiar. You're right. Yeah.
Aye.
He played one of the German officers, didn't he?
He played the captain. See, I thought he was the Gestapo guy, but then I remembered the Gestapo guy was the guy with the gun that got shot. He played the German captain.
Yeah, we enjoyed the opening scenes. That we thought it was sort of a little definite bit of Indiana Jones going on there and such like.
No, that's I think they classed it as like a Bond type, and I think that's why Chris Barry liked it, because it was very Bond-like.
Yeah.
He played his version of James Bond.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, surfing a crocodile down from the plane. That was great.
That was superb.
Perhaps it could have been a spin-off series in that.
Oh, totally.
See, the thing is, they could have easily done another comedy special agent with Ace Rimmer. Because you look at the ones they've had before, they've had Get Smart. They've had Pink Panther.
I grew up with Get Smart. Yeah, I used to watch that.
Don Johnson. Don Johnson
was Miami Vice.
Right. Don.
I can't think of his surname, but I know who you mean.
Aye.
From Get Smart, yeah.
Yeah. To me, that was just perfect. Smash.
Yep, that was a classic, that was.
From Get Smart, you've got Danger Mouse.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Remember the claw? It was basically the voice was very similar to the leader of Smash. So
right.
I think it was the same woman. It voiced both of them, but I think it was, if it wasn't, it was based on that character from Get Smart. because the woman who did the leader of Smurfs she'd been in Carry On Spying as well. But yeah, I mean, so you had Get Smart, you had the Pink Panther. They did the one with David Jason, which was not very good, which was The Secret Life of Edgar Briggs. It's where they took the Get Smart idea and the Pink Panther idea, put them together, and put a really good comedy actor in, and it didn't work. But you also had Johnny English. So
yeah,
Ace Rimmer,
which was equally good.
Slotted in there just as well, because it would be more James Bond like Johnny English, and just as funny as Get Smart. I think it would have worked, but unfortunately, it was the second last appearance of Ace Rimmer.
I know. This one really got to me. Because I'm kind of watching a lot of these for the first time now, and I was like, no, you can't go.
Yeah.
I love
you look at all the Ace Rimmers that have already passed.
Yeah. The thing I loved about this was how Lister kind of he kind of tricks Rimmer into believing in himself.
Yeah.
And it's a lovely gesture, and you can see he's genuinely like rooting for him. He wants him to sort of be able to do it.
Yeah. And this is the first episode that they showed the new bazookoids. The short-barreled ones.
Yeah.
Because accordingly, the long-barreled ones were causing too much havoc. Because, like, if you've seen the outtakes from the Out of Time, when Chris Barry's carrying it and running to the engine room, he runs with it out, and bang, he bounces back because the barrel, it's basically too long, and he had to make sure when he was going through. Accordingly, there was too many problems because the barrel was too long, hence the reason why they did a cut-down one. And if you notice throughout this season, that's anytime they're using the bazookoid, it's the new one. The old one with the long barrel just disappears. So,
okay.
See, I did notice that, but that was the first time because they've never actually mentioned anything about putting blanks or cartridges in the old one. So they used this new one. And I think it was the same idea. They'd initially were thinking about the old one, but because to fall back, they thought it would have been too cumbersome for them to try and bring this long barrel round. So between the issues they had the last season and this one, they thought, redesign it. And it looks better because you can imagine the smaller one, it looked a bit more futuristic. Although Red Dwarf never looked too futuristic, but it looked more futuristic, but it also looked practical.
Yeah, you could definitely see the changes. You could definitely see improvements and different things like that.
I always find the bazookoids too weird because sometimes they would use the bazookoids and other times they would have a gun. You look at Emo Hawk when he thinks he's got the gun and Dwayne says, "Where did you get the gun?" "Oh, well, that's Emo Hawk." He flushes it out. He's got a normal gun there. But other times they're still running around with the big bazookas because they obviously look more impressive. But practicality, would you want to walk about with a big bazooka or a wee gun?
I think I definitely would prefer the bazookoid.
Fine well if it hits something, it's going down, unless it's obviously Rimmer's ego. What was it? His ego, or id, or one of the two. It was basically his worst parts all joined together. But I must admit, I did even like the VR settings when you've got the Brian Cox and Sarah Alexander. And I think with the cheats, he was getting in there deliberately to cheat so he could sleep with the Queen.
Yeah.
But I like the idea that they didn't actually think, oh, well, he's just cheating his way into somebody's bed. They actually implied that she was interested because she was the one that says, we accept And Brian
Well, that was the little joke. Yeah, that was the little sort of joke they had there. Yeah.
You don't trust your man. It was all, but it is. I think they had to do that because of what had happened before, and with the delay and some of the other issues it had with Craig and that. They didn't want to actually even put anything like that on because it might have still been fresh in people's memory because the court case. So I think they did it so it didn't look as if it was forcing it.
Okay.
So I think that's what it is. But it made it funny. It funnier because the King's going, "Hey, pardon? Bring me that man's manhood." It's a bit wrong now. Chastity, donkey, horse cheat. I just thought it was funny. And the problem is, I played some games that literally the cheats you had to type in things like, what was the game? Age of Empires, and it was things like tricycle cheat and stuff like that. You had to type in those wee silly things. It's none of these ones like you used to have with the Xbox and all that. You A, B, Z, first button, left button, right button, fire to activate a cheat. This one you had to type in particular words to activate cheats, and I thought was actually quite good because games at the time, that's what it was. They didn't actually, you could see it aged the game, even though they were trying to actually imply it was more in the future. But you also know that the AR machine has also improved because they've got the seats and they've got the bits that pop down rather than just the thing in the ground.
Yeah.
It's more like the ones from Better Than Life.
Yeah.
No, Better Than Life was the visor and all that. It
Back
was
to reality.
Back to reality. It's those things, so they've got that now instead of just the 4 bits with the plug-in.
It definitely looked like they had more budget to have better props and things like that. So,
yeah, and what was it? It was actually a later on one that I'll talk about it because it was when you're talking about budget. I liked it, even silly wee things like Princess Bonjela.
Yeah. Yeah, that was funny.
Yes.
For obviously the Americans who are watching, Bonjela is a gum, an anti-inflammatory gum ointment, Bonjela.
Yeah.
But it was the fact is, Princess Bonjela, we all get out and then maybe time for a bit of sex. And she said, just call me Beryl.
Yeah.
Beryl Bonjela.
On the back of it. Yeah.
I thought it was thingy, but did you notice the mistake in that one as well? I was a biker until this happened. I was a biker, and that was the bit that annoyed me. Because did you see Ace when he was shooting the chains off of Princess Bonjela as he's driving?
Yeah.
What hand did he use?
I can't remember.
His right hand. That's your accelerator hand on the bike.
Right, okay.
So you can't accelerate and shoot at the same time. Whereas he's driving away and his gun goes out, you see the guy at the back chasing him and shooting, and he's shooting left-handed as he's driving. That's what would happen. Because you would be driving, because your brakes in that hand, your accelerators in that hand, your clutch in that hand. So you would actually be firing with that hand, your left hand.
Interesting. Yeah, so that's obviously something. If you'd never driven a bike, you would never pick up on that.
No.
Yeah, but it's just the fact is that, but also you notice he's doing that, yet the guy who, he's obviously sitting on a trailer on the bike doing it. Whereas you can see the guy at the back who's actually riding the bike, he's using his left hand, which is correct. But I'm a wee bit picky because I was a biker as well.
But it's almost like they were deliberately just throwing all those rules away, just to make it as campy as possible.
Definitely. It was even the what a guy every time. You're lucky to be alive. And the crocodile would boom. See you later, alligator.
Yeah.
Oh, it's another one. It's a see you later alligator. So you've got the Ticket to Ride, and then there's the second episode is see you later alligator. Same idea.
Yes, yes, definite theme building there.
Definitely, they're putting it in that. But I must admit, with the guests they had on for just the bit at the beginning, it wasn't even part of the story. So you've got the R Machine, and you've got the Ace Rimmer part. That's 4 main guests, 2 of them in the Ace sequence and 2 of them in the AR sequence. Yeah, they weren't even part of the story. The Ace one was, I suppose, yes, but that was that the second one that actually had a start before the credits? Because Ticket to Ride, they basically had the camera, and then it went into
that's what I was thinking of when you said that.
I think Stop Me a Clipper was the fact that I think there was another one that started with Ace, and then it did the intro music, and then went into the story. Because I think they did it about three times in this season. I know they definitely did it twice, but I thought they may have done it a third time with that one.
Yes, apparently some couple of the episodes overran, so they cut.
They cut them. So what they did was they added it in when they were doing the DVD.
They were able to put them back.
Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if that's what they've done. So the runtime for the episode, but they've just added or moved a bit to just before that. Which I must admit, I do like anything with Ace in it.
And me, I really get a kick out of those. It reminds me a lot of Rick Mayall's character, Lord Flashheart.
Oh, aye. That's that's Blackadder there. I do like. I used to actually. I used to have the audios of the Blackadder, and I could just sit and listen to the audios because, believe it or not, it's very slapstick, so it's very visual gags.
Yeah.
But they're done in such a way that you don't need to watch them to get the humor out of it.
It's the delivery.
The delivery
is so crisp. It's so snappy and quick. Yeah, I can see that.
So you don't need to watch them. Although, even if you're sitting and watching them, it's just as funny just listening to it because the delivery was so well done. Like, for instance, the part with Blackadder where it's what starts with come here and ends in ouch. I don't know. Basically, that was a very visual gag. But see, even hearing it, the fact is, what starts with here, come back, all you hear is, I don't know. Give me a.
Yeah, it works either way.
It worked just as well. And because I used to listen to the audios all the time, and even at the time, one of my friends used to say, how can you listen to that instead of watching it? Because it's all visual. No, it's not. Good comedy doesn't need to be visual, and Blackadder is perfect comedy, and Flashheart is superb in that.
Yeah, he is in all the sort of Blackadder series, and that's what the Ace Rimmer thing kind of reminds me of. Yeah. Even though it's slightly different, but it's enough. There's enough similarities that it really. That's what's so great about that character. You just you can't not like him. He's just a bit of a But
we mentioned that the last time when Ace was on. He's basically Flashheart and Ace Rimmer use very similar jokes.
Yeah.
For the point about the characters.
Yeah.
Like the one was about the price of rubbers has gone up, and then Flashheart, it was the same idea. The price of Johnny's, you just tell so and so that you're safe. They don't need they'll not go bankrupt because it's that type of thing. So 2 very similar jokes because they don't. I think they realised that. So the second one who wrote it, it was a case of similar types of jokes because they're similar characters, and they just led into that. So, yes, Ace is always superb.
Yes, and it was good to see. I quite like this when an actor does this. They play a character and then an alternative version, and then you see the other character pretending to be the other one. and you can see the difference. And you look, because it shows Chris Barry's. I need to say Chris Tarrant. Then what the hell am I on about? Chris Barry's I'll come in again. Talent, you know, as an actor, you can sort of pull that off.
It does, yeah. That is really impressive the way he does that, and he has to keep changing his voice all the time. And he's at one point he's Rimmer trying to fake Ace Rimmer's voice, but then falling back into himself, Rimmer. It was
voice that he got up and down, and it's very well done because yes, Cat. Yeah. It's basically that. Just try to get it. It looks like he's trying to get it right. Whereas you obviously know he knows exactly how to get it right, but he still knows how to make it sound as if he's struggling to get the right pitch. And it's so well done again. But I think that just goes to show the talent they had on the show. With exactly. You look at Danny, he's a scene stealer, but he's just so great with it. Craig Jarrell's basically, he's considering he was a poet, and this is his first break into acting. He just handled it so well, and he just looks so natural by this point. And then you've got Robert Llewellyn. You can't imagine him. Although we've seen him in human form, you just can't imagine him in any other way than the way Craig is.
Yeah.
He's very good. He's got a very sort of physical presence in comedy.
Yeah.
He definitely does. He still reminds me of Herman Munster. And I know they made a joke about that in somewhere along the line. I think that was
they made a bit of Herman Munster's stunt double or something like that.
Yeah. It's a great physical comedy.
Family today, so it's not the Munsters. It was the Addams Family I was watching today. I basically watched an episode. I just thought I wanted something classic and funny, so I just dug out an old Addams Family.
Oh, they're great.
And it's just one of those things. Just every so often you need a wee bit of a break, and it's just always go to something classic, and it was the Addams Family today. So
I love that.
It was just a single episode. But so Stoke Me a Clipper, high up. What would you say out of the season? Do you think it's one of the better ones, weaker ones?
One of the better ones.
I think it's one of the better ones.
Yeah, I would say it's probably one of the better ones. It isn't going to be perfect, but I think it's definitely still able to carry that, that sort of label of being one of the better ones, because it's just got so much pathos in that one, and it's such a great character piece. Again, for all of them, but particularly obviously for Rimmer, and how he goes on a bit of a journey, to sort of find his confidence, and then with a bit of help from Lister, he realizes, he's actually got to do this, and then he actually goes off, and Darren,
and even going off, as it were, he went off in typical Rimmer style. Smoke me a clipper, boys! Boom! Let's come back. I couldn't leave you saying goodbye again. It was almost a case of typical Rimmer, and then he bounces back into doing something again. I thought it was very. Did you notice that's what I'm saying? Did you notice prior to this one, so the Ticket to Ride, that he's becoming more intelligent, less Rimmer-like? Because remember the bit of the sticky thing when he's saying, do you think it's the cyber? And he's giving all these technical terms. He says, no, sir, I've just pressed it too hard. So he's
he's jabbing it too hard.
He's coming up with technical terms as if he's learned that he's becoming better than he was, because he always failed at learning things. He couldn't remember things. But for some reason, this season, from the start, he seems to be a bit more competent.
Yeah.
Even though he seems to get knocked back down as soon as do you think it's this? No, sir, it's just stuck.
Yeah.
Just the fact is, I noticed it in that one, and in this one, it's the same again. He basically still his Weasley part, but there is still the part when things are explained to him. He doesn't actually like he would do the last time. Ace turned up. I don't know. He just seemed more competent. It's almost like he was slotting into the Rimmer position a lot easier.
Yeah, you do start to see him slightly evolving as a character there.
Yeah. See, I always found this season really unusual. So I did the whole season. Just for the simple fact is Chris had wanted to leave.
Didn't he go to the States to try to take part in
the Lara Ward, the Tomb Raider movie? He played the butler.
That's right.
So I don't know if this was the time or else he'd gone over there to try and make something. But you think about it, like he wanted to finish, and they convinced him to do other wee bits throughout, so it wasn't a complete cold cut, as it were. But he wasn't really gone for that long, if you think about it.
No.
Because it was only this season, and it wasn't even the whole season. It was only part of the season. He was gone and then back again.
Yeah, I guess it seems like it wasn't very long, but I don't know how much time would elapse in between, like the filming and then.
It could have been a couple of years, I suppose.
Yeah,
they filmed it, and then they were doing the next one ready. It could have been a couple of years, but it just seemed because normally there's a couple of seasons they're going, and then they come back, like you know who.
I had forgotten he was the butler in Tomb Raider.
Yeah, long time since
of course he was. Yeah.
But
I may have only seen that film about 150 times, but never mind.
But we're always the same because you don't focus on something until somebody points it out. It's like ants, them. It was only when I noticed Leonard Nimoy was in it. Yeah, I'd watched it for years, once a year for years. And it was only maybe, I would say, last time, not the time there, but the time before. So you're talking about maybe the middle of last year. I watched it and I thought, that's Spock. And then when I put it on, I deliberately cut that bit out so I could put it on. And I forgot to mention it. It was you that mentioned it to me. And I said, and I didn't even notice he was in initially. But when I did, I put him in to actually mention him. And I forgot to mention him again because it's not something that's a big thing. It's just something you could watch it numerous times. But once you notice it, next time you watch Tomb Raider, you go, oh, that's Chris Paddy.
Yeah. I can see him very vividly in my mind now. I can see him and I can remember thinking to myself, oh, that's Rimmer from Red Dwarf, when we saw it. But I had completely forgotten that until you mentioned it.
It's just one of those things. But
it's a while since we've seen that.
Yeah. I've not seen it for a few years.
I know at one time it seemed to be on permanent loop on the Sci-Fi Channel at one time.
Every time you turn on you'd look at the guide, you'd be like,
oh,
yeah, okay, here it is again. What a surprise. Yeah.
The problem is nowadays you'll not get programs like that. A woman actually dressing down to actually go adventuring. A pair of tights, a pair of shorts, and a tank top. Not happening. No. Which it's crazy because if you had a guy, I'm trying to remember, Jurassic Park. Remember the hunter that got ripped apart by the clever girl.
Clever girl.
And I checked. He stood around with a pair of shorts on, and it was basically a shirt, but it was opened. What difference did it?
Yeah, he was sort of made to be very dashing, I think, and sort of the sort of heroic figure that didn't have to really worry about those kinds of things.
Yeah, but it was the fact that
because
it wasn't anything else. It was the heat of the island, that made him want to dress like that, the shorts.
Yeah.
And Lara Croft, fair enough, if she was still starting about with a pair of shorts and a tank top in a blizzard, I would think, well, they've decided to actually make her dress like that. But it wasn't. She was actually, most of the time, she was in jungles or in caves. Or it was usually in hot climates. And believe it or not, I don't like them, but even I wear shorts in a wee tank top type thing. I've got 2 of them I only ever use on holiday. Doesn't matter how hot it is round about here. Nope. I'll only wear them on holiday. And it's only the simple fact is heat drives, because you've got no choice. You're never going to be hot enough in Scotland, no matter how hot it gets.
That's right,
compared with Spain. So yes, in Spain, I'll wear a pair of shorts and a tank top, but I'll never do that in Scotland.
No.
No. You wouldn't get to do it in Wales very often without weather. This week being the exception.
This week was warm, but even at that, in Scotland, if the sun's out, doesn't matter what the weather's like, it's taps off. Basically, you see people stoating about. Sun's out, it could be 10 degrees outside. They're stoating about with the shirts, or the t-shirts tucked into their shorts.
I've seen them, down here as well. It's so funny. It's like
that's a Valley's phenomenon as well.
Yeah, it's because it's basically we don't see the sun often enough to actually worry about the cold.
No,
there's one I'm going to look at. That is the problem. But to me, it's the same idea with these type of programs. If the person is wearing them because of the heat, it doesn't matter. But if you actually don't want them to wear something because of the heat, you want to make them wear heavier stuff just because. I think that's more impractical than anything else, because in effect you're turning around and saying, I would rather that person boiled to death.
Yeah.
Now the next one. Ouroboros or Ouroboros.
This was clever.
It was very clever, but do you know what I thought was probably a reason why they actually used that? Crichton. Think about it, very hard. Why would Crichton lead to Ouroboros?
Oh.
Thinking very hard isn't really on the books for tonight. Not after today.
Robert and David, that's a clue. Three names: Crichton, Robert, David. Well, Crichton is our Rob or Ross, isn't he? Our Rob, Llewellyn, or our David.
Gotcha.
Yes.
I was thinking about it as Royce, and I thought Robert Ross. Was it not Ross? I thought it was Ross was the first name. I thought no, it's David Ross, our Rob or Ross, and I just thought, I wonder if the actor thought that is Crichton. But it's probably not. It's probably because of that. But see this Ouroboros, it makes zero sense, because he says it means the humans will never die out. Either will. Because as soon as Dave Lister dies at 171, or 100 and whatever it was he dies at, then that's the last of the humans. It just means that, in effect, he is his own father, so he's going back in time just to make sure he was born. So it's only his life. It doesn't mean the whole humanity never dies out because of the time loop. So, because as soon as he dies, then all he's done is put him back so he could be born to die, born to die, born to die. It doesn't make any sense with the last human. So it doesn't mean the human species is in an eternal loop to make sure they don't die.
I think they call it a bootstrap paradox.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
A loop in time, but where does it start? Where does it end? And then again, getting back to time travel.
Well, that's effectively that. Yes, as you said, it's the bootstrap, because the bootstrap is something it basically to pull it in, but what pulls it in initially? If it just constantly, it just happens. So if he's his father, goes back, it's the same. It was the same as they used it before. They just actually updated it slightly, because the put back paradox was you go back, meet your grandmother, sleep with her, and cause her to be pregnant, which led to your father, which led to you. It's a bootstrap. So if you never went back, would you have been born? Whereas they've taken it literally. He is his father, so it makes it a lot simpler for people to understand. I think they did it with that rather than he went back and met his. It was his own father, so he was his own grandfather, that type of thing. So it led to that. But it's just.
Yes, it's getting into Robert Heinlein territory a little bit.
The problem is with it is only because he says those words. That means the human race will never end. Him going back to be his own father doesn't mean they'll never end. It just means he's on a loop. He has to be born so he can cause him to be born, so he can cause him to be born. It is his loop, nobody else's. So the rest of the people, it means nothing to the rest of humanity, because once he dies, he dies. It's no meaning that it's all starting again. It'd be like if he was his own son and he went forward in time to make sure his son was there after he died. So it basically just meant that kind of thing. That could be different, but it's the fact that he's going back and it's only that wee loop, it's constant. I know it sounds weird, but it's just because I noticed that and I couldn't actually...
No, you're right. You're right. You know, again, it's a sort of time traveling paradox is when you get into thinking about it.
And the only thing I'm saying that was because he mentioned it. He was the one that said it. If they hadn't mentioned it and he says, I'm my own father now, I understand everything, and then it could have been implied. But he said it, which made no sense. And our Roberus was the introduction of Chloe Annette as the alternate Kachansky.
Yes.
She wasn't the first choice. They wanted C.P. Grogan back.
I was wondering that. Could they not get her, or didn't she want to?
It was simply they couldn't get her. I think she was doing something else, but they couldn't get her. It was either they couldn't get her or else she wasn't interested in coming back. But they in effect, they couldn't get her. I don't know if it was a case of she decided to stop acting or whatever, or she was doing something else. But they just couldn't.
I think she went to EastEnders as well at one point.
I can't remember that. I must admit, I don't really watch it a lot.
No, I don't.
I used to see it on when I'm at my sister's or when my mum used to watch it. But my wife watches it, but because I've got my man cave, I don't sit through there a lot at night.
No, we tend to avoid it.
Yeah, well, neither of us here, and in the family home when my mother watches it, my dad he goes and washes up or goes and has a
far away from the telly.
I can understand that,
and I don't blame him.
Yep. But I think as a Kachansky, a character was too annoying. I think they wrote her too annoying. Too different.
Becco was just saying something about that in the chat as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if she really worked as a regular character before, the one Lister's dream girl, the one he was always talking about, and but somehow when she's actually there, perhaps it doesn't actually work.
Yep. Claire Grogan was in EastEnders, Ian's new girlfriend.
Right.
And then it's there, even Sadako wanted to like Kachansky, but she wasn't as likable as C.P. Grogan version. And the business of Crichton being jealous, I felt often petty. I was thinking the exact same thing.
They overdid that.
They overdid it. Crichton being the antagonist just was too much. It just almost made Crichton look petty.
Yeah.
It also made Kochanski look overbearing as well. I think they just couldn't. I think they just didn't know how to write her, because I don't think it was a natural. Chris is leaving. We need to bring somebody else in who would be a good fit. It was a case of, well, we're thinking about selling it. We want to look at a movie deal, and for that we need to have a female. Let's bring back Kochanski. Then I think that was in the road before Chris had decided they wanted to leave. So I think because they went with that made the decisions, and then they couldn't work a way around it. It wasn't a natural flow in. So the jokes and the way they acted to each other would have been a bit more normal, because they would have thought about who they wanted to fit in and worked way around it. I think it's because they wanted to bring in Kochanski, and it was almost like forced. And then, well, if it was an alternate Kochanski, which I can understand why they couldn't get CP Grogan, although I hate the fact that she calls herself CP Grogan. Claire Grogan.
Yeah, exactly. That's
what we know.
Really
because there's already a Claire Grogan on the book of Equity. I can't remember the thing, but there was a Claire Grogan. That's why she had to change it to CP Grogan. But Claire Grogan, I think if they got her, they knew how to write for her. But what they've done is, because they decided it had to be an alternate one because they couldn't get Claire, they tried to change it up a bit, because we've seen alternate versions of the cat. We've seen alternate versions of Lister. We've certainly seen alternate versions of Rimmer. So with Ace, suppose the cat priest, I still think that was a weird one, or Spanners. And with the demon and angels, different types of characters of the three of them, I just thought, the way they changed the Kochanski character, they could have had her still as charming and still like that, but just a wee bit different. She just seemed too pompous.
Yeah, I suppose she did. There was a couple of scenes where I thought that did work quite well with her character, but I think, as you've said, and Sadako has said in the chat as well, and Darren as well, it was just overdone, especially with her and Crichton. I think that would have worked, initially, a brief little, like a brief little
an episode.
Yeah.
Even.
Yeah, just
the thing with the salad cream. Thing with the salad cream is hilarious.
Until she settled in.
Yeah.
Because you think about it, with our Roberus, she comes up and baby Lister is delivered 18 months. So she's effectively been there 18 months minimum. We assume, because it tells you at the end of the episode 18 months, and then you see all these things happening the next few episodes and stuff like that. It doesn't add those things that are leading up. So if they only been there a couple of weeks, and this is just something that happens in the future.
One of the things that I thought was odd about her character was that she gets stranded with them, and she presumably only has the clothes on her back, right?
Yeah.
And then they have, in one of the stories, they sat around the clothes dryer watching her pants going around in the clothes dryer, and they're like, there's like they're presumably like all these different pairs of pants.
Multiple.
How did she get all those clothes if she was sort of just stranded there with just the clothes on her back? It just seemed odd.
Yeah, it see, there's ways around that, because they mentioned it. Was it in Blue when they were actually opening all the lockers? So they could have got around it that way.
Yeah. So she was like, they scavenged the rest of the clothes for her.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, was it in Ouroboros? They basically showed Rimmer, him and Lister going down.
Yeah. And he tries to outsmart Lister. He's like, no, I'm
So
not going
basically,
for that
they've
one because
shown
you
a
think
way
I'm going to
that-
go for that one.
Aye. So they've shown a way that she could have got clothes by then just jimmying open all these things.
Yeah.
But yeah,
the chances that would be all those women's clothes on there, you know.
Or some guys' clothes as well, you know. You never know.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm watching. Do you know they were actually thinking with Chris leaving who they were going to bring in? And do you know who was actually one of the favourites to be brought back? Not including Claire's Kachansky. Was Pearson. David Williams.
Really?
Mark Williams. Pearson.
That would have been sort of odd.
I think it would have been funny, but I think it would have actually been
I think a few too many.
Funny.
Yeah.
I think it would have been limited funny because there would be only so much you could do when you've already established the type of character Peterson was.
Yeah.
And you do put he pops up occasionally here and there.
Who was that they were going to bring in? Sorry, it broke up a bit at my end.
Peterson. They were bringing in Mark Williams.
Oh, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. I think it would have actually worked for a short time. But I think the jokes, because they've already established the type of character he is, I think the jokes would have just got quite stale.
Yeah, I think that would have worked, like you said, it would have worked maybe for an episode. But I think dragging that out with his character added into everything else.
Yeah, definitely.
Would have complicated things.
Yeah,
because I mean, we love the dialogue of the core characters. So the more dialogue you can get for them, the better.
Yeah, definitely.
So the more characters you have, then there's dialogue being split out a lot more among them.
Yep. Sadako was saying about the novel continuity treatment show. In the normal Infinity Welcomes Careful Drivers, they talk about Peterson and why they didn't bring him back. Because he asks, why did you bring Rimmer back and not let Peterson? He says, because you would have just sat and get drunk. The novel explains it a bit better. The reason why it wouldn't have worked because of the type of character Peterson was. But seeing that, I think it would have been funny for an episode and to realise that actually he's doing damage because of the amount of drinking he would have done.
Mm.
Yeah, and the bit when they're talking about when he's talking about Crichton's talking about everybody's leaving, going to leave me, the people, and he says, you killed them. Isn't my fault? Well, in the book, it's Crichton cleaning and mopping that caused the Nova Vi's computer to crash and kill the crew. So basically, before that, he had no knowledge of they were dead when Crichton first turned up. But in the book, and it's Crichton into this one, is when he's talking about getting left alone again. The book says that basically it was him that killed him because he mopped and cleaned that much. It actually caused the computer to crash, which means nothing was working, no air, no oxygen, nothing. But, yeah. Did you see the baby Lister?
Yes, I think I know who that is as well.
I must admit, when it first came out, I heard who it was when it was actually in the paper. When they were talking about the show, when they were giving the synopsis and stuff like that, and it did say baby Lister. And it just it didn't say it just gave his name. So who was it?
Danny John-Jules' son.
No.
Danny
John-Jules' nephew.
Nephew, right? Okay.
But Alexander John-Jules.
Ah, fantastic.
Yeah, I initially thought it was his son as well,
Yeah.
because it was just under his baby lister, Alexander John-Jules, and I thought, oh, it's one of his kids standing it.
Mm.
And then a few years after that, had one of the magazines, and it basically said it was his nephew.
Ah, right. Okay.
That was the first thing I thought. It was Danny's son,
which would have been quite cool, actually.
It would have been cool, but do you know why? I know why now as well. Because it was basically on one of the videotapes when they were talking about it. It shows you how long ago. The baby they had hired to play Baby Lister, it was Danny said the skin tones didn't match.
Ah, right.
So he had suggested his nephew, who he said has the skin tone was more natural with Listers. So
yeah, makes sense. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Usually, I think a lot of people wouldn't have noticed because it was a baby. Believe it or not, babies change.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, but it actually made it a bit better because you would have got people who would have actually said, "Oh, wait a minute, that's different." And then it's the same as if you get a kid with blonde hair and a kid with black, an adult with black hair. People say it can't be the same, which is not true because, believe it or not, I used to have a lot of blonde in my hair. I've got a lot of grey, but I used to have a lot of blonde when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did have a lot of hair at one point, but obviously a very, very long time ago. Yeah. One of these days I'll get enough for a wig.
Hair today, gone tomorrow, all that.
Yeah. I'll have, I've got the same amount of hair I had when I was born. And I'm talking about including this. I had all that up there. I had my hair when I was born. I had a big mass of hair. So I did.
Oh, well done.
Aye, well, my mum always used to laugh. Basically, the amount of hair I had to the amount of hair I went down to. There's people's hair grow. Yours went backwards. Drunk.
Captain Hipster Spock has joined us.
Hey, Captain. I better watch what I say now because he'll get me back tomorrow. But we were just talking about Ouroboros. Just missed that episode. Talking about the bootstrap paradox of he is his own father, so he goes back and puts him back. Yep.
Another timey-wimey one.
Yes, another one. See, I always hated that expression. Every time I heard it. Timey-wimey. Means nothing. Stop it.
That's David Bennett brought that one into the...
But the thing is, I can understand why it was said, but I think it got to the point it was a statement and stop keep using it. And it was a statement. He was trying to explain something it's difficult to explain, so he used the timey-wimey. But they seem to use it more and more. And I thought it got to the point where people were using it as a descriptor. No, it's a made-up term. It means nothing. So I don't I don't use it. So I'll just let you know. I get fed up with that. I'm going to go.
They probably overdid it a bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just a bit.
Just a little bit.
I know it's just one of those things, but the thing is, I can't even remember what I was saying. It just goes to show.
Don't worry. I think.
The Ouroboros one. What did you think? Episode 3.
I liked it.
Overall, not bad. Not my favorite. I wouldn't say it's like up there with the best of them, but it's not bad. It's still enjoyable to watch. It's quite well done and it's quite clever concept. So it
was a way of introducing the the idea, which they pick up later on, about where Lister came from. Because it was mentioned a few times about being found under the pool and the pool table and all that. And see, when they said it was on the box, Earl Robert Ross, then why is your name Dave? Surely your name, somebody there says, it says Earl Robert Ross, pick one. Rob then. Rob Lister.
Yeah, I was going to say it would be more like Rob.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So it was Earl Robert Ross. I can't see him being a Ross Lister. A Rob, yes.
No.
But the way he was talking about it in the past and the way they talked about it, Earl Robert Ross, they don't even know his name. Then why was it called Dave? That joke didn't work for me at all.
It was a bit of a stretch, this one, I think.
It was a bit of a stretch, and I think that was the only thing that I didn't like about it was they seemed to actually playing that again, because they'd mentioned it before previously. But this time they actually went on about, they did mention about they didn't even know his name. Then why did you call him Dave? That's the part I didn't understand, because they mentioned that his name is either that or that, so they picked a third choice.
Well, maybe his real name was Rodney, so they called him Dave.
Now that one I can get behind. That one I can get behind. I've got the exact same brush I had since I started. I've only replaced the head 14 times and the handle. And I thought, initially when they started that, I thought he was going to say, I've replaced the head 14 times, and somebody was going to say something. Then how's it same brush? But when he went on and continued it, and I've replaced the handle at 7 times, I thought, even I got that straight away. But I thought they were going to get it the part. So, well, it's because I still got the same handle. The brush part is unimportant, although the brush part's the part that makes a brush. But because he had the same handle, I thought that's where he was going with the joke. But when he continued it on, I thought, oh yeah, beauty. He just took it the extra trigger. So even his name, Trigger. The very first time Dave got introduced to him, he says, that's Trigger. He says, it because he carries a gun? He says, no, because he looks like a horse. Yeah, beauty.
Great.
Trigger just got some of the best things in The Only Fool, so he did.
Oh, yeah.
And yes, even calling him Dave. Yeah, I would accept that one. So the cheap episode was the next one. We've got no money, so we'll have to do something cheap.
Yeah.
Duck soup.
This was the one. It had some good funny moments, but it was definitely a little bit more, it didn't come over as well, I think, as some of the other ones did.
Yeah. Didn't they have to drop a planned episode instead because of the budget issues?
Yes.
And they just came up with this.
I think they did. I can't remember what they were planning, but this was the final one written, and it was only written because the funding was basically almost non-existent at this point. This is the one they couldn't have any other characters, nothing. It had to be, the filming had to be done on the cheap. Hence the reason why they were in the ducks or in the one room.
Yeah, I suppose, but every sci-fi series seems to have its bottle episode, as they call them. Don't they? They just get the cheapie, fill the slot.
Yes, and two things I liked about this episode. One, the name.
Yeah,
great. I love my Marx Brothers.
Yeah,
It did make me think of the Marx Brothers, definitely.
Yeah. And the other one was when they take the Mickey out of the Gorbals in Glasgow.
I didn't understand that, but I was just reading on IMDb what the sort of in-joke was with that. Yeah.
See, the Gorbals, when I was growing up, the Gorbal was the type of place where the police used to go around in twos in the police station. It was. It's the old joke. If you didn't carry a knife in the Gorbals, they used to give you one. Basically, the Gorbals in the 70s and 80s was one of the toughest parts of Glasgow. Nowadays, it is one of the better parts of Glasgow. It's changed. It's one of the higher, not necessarily better, but one of the more affluent parts. So obviously, it's completely changed. They ripped a lot of the houses down. They built flats, a lot of sports down there, and a lot of business. So it is quite affluent now. But at the time this was getting filmed, it was the type of place that you would only walk down during the day if you knew people around the Gorbals, because there was a lot of.
I remember that.
Yes,
we've got places down there. We've got places like it down this way. There's a housing estate near Merthyr Tydfil that's got the same reputation.
Well, there used to be a load. I used to stay in Easter House, and Easter House was one of the notorious ones. I used to stay in Postal Park, another one that was notorious. Used to stay in Shelton, another one that was notorious. So I used to stay a lot of the bits where even I wouldn't go to the Gorbals. Yeah, I mean, basically around about Easter House was a big one for gangs. There was a lot of gangs, the Troy, the Drummy, and stuff like that. They were all always fighting. But even I wouldn't go to the Gorbals if I could get away with it. I didn't need to. But even it was a place you went if you knew people around there. That was the only way you could get around it. It's the same as you used to have in Govan, Wine Alley. You couldn't walk down Wine Alley, and it was called Wine Alley because usually everybody was a wino. It was called Wine Alley, and if you could, every person in that street was part of a family. So if you wanted to get a house, you had to have a member of family staying in Wine Alley to get a house in Wine Alley, because nobody actually wanted to be there if they didn't have to be. So the only people that moved in were people who already had family in the area.
Yeah, they'd be sort of more accepted then.
Yes.
Yeah.
But same again, Govan has actually been cleaned up, and it's not as bad as it once was. But that was the joke with the Gorbals, which I found it really funny because I was from Glasgow, so I understood it. I was from the affluent part. Yes, nowadays you can get away with that, and people wouldn't find it as funny. But then, no. I'd be like, you came from. I'm trying to think of the really bad places in London. Sorry, then the really bad places in London. Now you would just say London.
Yeah.
But then the really bad places, it'd be like saying trying to find an area in London that you would think, oh, you couldn't walk down that street at night, that type of thing. But it's the same. Every city's got that, or at least did have that. Now it's not as bad. There's places that you still wouldn't want to, but it's not as prevalent that you knew if you walked down there, you definitely someone was going to have. But that's why I liked this episode. Those two bits, the duck soup and the Gorbal joke. They made it a wee bit more special for me.
Yeah.
Even though I knew it was done in the cheap. And the cat stealing his scene. What's that sound? Sort of gushy, washy, rushing sound.
Those were some of the great lines,
Aye, and then what's that sound? Is it a gurgly wash it? No, it's more of a howling, windy, blowing thing.
But Lister goes the wrong way, and then Cat says something to him, and he's like, "Oh crap," and he runs back the other way. But it's Cat's comment after he goes, "Man, you are really stupid."
I'm not going that way. That's the way it's coming from.
Yes, Cat can hear all these, things that they can't. So he thinks they're completely stupid.
Yeah, and it's the whole the whole thing about them actually just accept. Basically, they're the ones that are at fault. But I must admit, I even liked the claustrophobia story. of
There
why
was-
claustrophobic.
Yeah, because it's more of a character episode, I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah. There was a scene in an earlier episode, though, where they get stuck in the chimney when Lister has that device, where
The
they get
hollyhock.
stuck in a chimney or something, and he doesn't seem to freak out there. So
In Meltdown.
Meltdown, aye.
Nah.
Because they had the paddles.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. But see, the thing is, I could quite understand that. Because see me, I've got a fear of heights. I have done abseiling, I've done rock climbing. But see if I'm standing at a window, just a small window like that, I can look out that window and look down, because I stayed in high flats. So I could look down, no problem. Quite the thing. See if it's a glass window and maybe even a glass ledge. So you've got the perspex ledge and it's all open, so you're not in a balcony, but you can still see through there's no wall, it's just perspex. I can't go near it because I can feel the wind. So I've got a fear of heights sometimes. And it
that's
depends.
understandable.
I can step back so I can't feel the wind. I can look out over the height, no problem. But if I feel as if I can't see anything in front of me and I can feel the wind, my fear of heights spikes. And how he's saying that he's got claustrophobia. If he knows he can get out, he's not as bad. So I can understand that to an extent. Only for the simple fact is, I know the fear of heights can be weird. Where I can stand and look down on something a way down, or can go up on a roller coaster goes a way up and turn upside down, and I'm okay because I'm strapped in. Whereas I can't stand at a window, it's opened halfway and I can feel it. Oh.
I've been up in some of the big skyscrapers, like Empire State Building and stuff, like in New York City, and I find that really disconcerting. I don't like being up and then looking out over the top of something when you're really high up.
Yeah, I'm okay with that because you've got the wall, then you've got all the bars.
That's still
I'm quite happy standing there and looking down, but
that still freaks me out. Even
But the thing is, right? I used to be able to. In my work was 3 floors inside. They had an open area, and it was all glass. So all the windows were glass, top to the bottom. The walkways, it was all glass. This was all just on the inside of the courtyard inside the building. So it was all glass. All the windows were glass. All the walkways, it was glass railings. So it was like a perspex all the way around, only at the top. And I couldn't walk along those corridors. I had to go down in the lift, go across the bottom, and back up in the lift.
Yeah.
I couldn't walk along that corridor because I could feel that it was open too much for me. And I could stand in the Empire State Building, stand right up at the wall with the metals and look down. No problem.
I can't do that, but yet I can do other things that you would think, because that's why the fear of heights thing is really weird. It's very different depending upon what you do. I've done charity abseils and things, and I've been, with the exception of a little bit of nervousness starting out, I was fine with those and I actually enjoyed it. But if I'm just standing at the top of a building or something and trying to look down, it's a different thing.
I used to
play the other way around, but
a good few years ago, I used to play a computer game, right? And there was one part of it you had to get onto. It was a cable car. There was one part of it you had to go onto the cable car, but it broke down, so you had to go onto the roof.
Oh my god!
Walk along to the pole and walk and climb down the pole. So you had to. So he was crawling. See, as soon as you got onto the roof, the view, I had to switch off. I couldn't play the game anymore because as soon as he went onto the roof, I sort of went, "Oh," because he would look down and it's just mist and everything. I'm staring at the screen. In my head, I'm the one on that roof looking down. My head knows that's a computer screen, but my vertical was going, oh no, no, and I had to stop that game. So I was as soon as I got to that, I would replay the game, got to that point, eventually I got one of my friends here going to play that bit for me, and I would walk out and he'd come in and say, yeah, I've got it by, no problem. Nope, would not play it because I couldn't, because as soon as I got to that point, and it was just because of the way they did the scene, it was just so realistic.
Yeah, a bit too realistic, yeah.
And there's times I know if I wake up in a cold sweat, I've been dreaming about something high up, something silly. Why I would, like Indiana Jones or something with or maybe I'd watched Die Hard, and the bit he jumps off the thing with the thing around him. If I'm dreaming and watching that bit in my dream, I wake up in a cold sweat because I've gone over with him. And I know it's a dream, but my head's going, no, get up, move it.
Yeah.
So I wake up, that's it. I have to actually calm down before I go back to sleep, and I have to deliberately think of something else. Even if it's giant ants or it's Red Dwarf or it's something silly, I have to say no. What's that? Quarantine. I saw quarantine mentioned. Fair enough, that was Rimmer's character to be petty, and it was a long time established trait in Duck Soup. I felt Crichton wouldn't do it. That was another thing. This one, it was Crichton was a protagonist. It actually caused it. And it was because he was jealous. I just thought, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of undermined Crichton's character a little bit. It worked in a couple of scenes. I thought it was quite funny, you know.
The salad cream,
but it was dragged out a bit. Yeah.
See the salad cream one.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
That's later on.
Yeah.
But the salad cream one, yes, because I've seen people having that argument. I've seen people having that argument.
Oh, the struggle is real with that one.
But I've seen that. That's why I found that part funny. Whereas this part with the all the doors are actually unlocked, and you're sitting there thinking,
really? that didn't feel like Crichton. No, he wouldn't do that
because he kept going on about how Dave tells him everything.
Exactly, he's always looking to protect them.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say that's why it came across probably as a bit of a rushed episode. They just had to sort of get that one out, so to speak, and that's the conclusion, that's the twist at the end, and get it off to the studio, whatever.
Yeah. But it was the cheap one because it was filmed at the end. It was written. It was the last one written, and it was because they didn't have the cash, so they had to have, as you said, a bottler or basically a filler episode. Because the cast and the crew were on pay, so it made no difference if they didn't need to bring anybody else in. No problem.
Yeah, maybe they were struggling because you got the series was 8 episodes instead of the usual 6. So.
6, I know. I actually forgot that until I actually started watching. I'm sitting there thinking, it's not normally 8. And I thought, no, it's normally 6. That's why I thought it was a wee bit longer. Why they actually upped it, I don't know. Because if they'd actually
may have been to do with overseas sales, perhaps.
It could have been. But it's just the fact is, if they'd stuck it to the 6, they could have actually had a couple of the stories they wanted.
Yeah.
But Duck Soup, all in all, was an okay for a filler episode. It wasn't the greatest. I think it was funny. There was enough funny parts in it. Typical Red Dwarf humour in it that sort of worked.
Yeah. I think the biggest criticism is that it let Crichton's character down quite a bit.
Yeah. I thought that was the only thing because it just seemed to go a wee bit too much. But unfortunately, it wasn't the last time they did that. And it was. And that takes us on to Blue.
This one was mad.
Blue was a last. This was the last appearance of Ace. Even though it was a short appearance, it was the last appearance of Ace in Red Dwarf.
Wow.
So it was.
That scene was so good. I was
you know, we were actually, that was revenge.
What do you mean?
See, early on, right, Crichton got his romantic scene with Camille.
Okay.
Rimmer got his romantic scene with the whole ship. Jane something. I can't remember the character name off the top of my head. However, Chris Barry had always wanted a romantic scene. But what did they do? Got him to kiss a siren, a bug siren. They got him to kiss a Gelf in Polymorph 2, his wife. And then they got him to kiss Rimmer. And that was revenge, based on the fact that he kept trying to push to get a romantic thing. And what a romantic thing. He said, because of your obsession with Kachansky, you couldn't have that. They did eventually relate, and then the last one was with the AR character.
Yes. Yeah.
They did relate in the end, but this was still a continuing joke based on that revenge. They still continued it.
Interesting.
And I thought that was hilarious. But this is the one, it had salad cream. The salad cream. Hold me back. Yeah. The thing is, I like that because, yes, the problem is I have seen people, what are you putting that in the cupboard for? It should be in the fridge because it's open. But it's a salad cream, you want it cold on your salad. And I've seen people arguing about where you store salad cream.
It is one of those things.
Mayonnaise.
You same idea.
Yeah.
Same brown sauce.
Certain things stay in the cupboard, certain things go in the fridge.
Yeah, whereas I grew up, they were always in the cupboard.
That's true.
Yeah. But then again, I had a big family, so they didn't last long enough to go off. But I just remember, as I was getting older, flat shame or whatever, I used to see people arguing about that all the time, and I could never understand it. But I found it funny, and then seeing it in this, I just took me back, and I laughed just because I have physically seen people arguing like that. I've seen the hold me back part as well. Is the fact is it's a case of, see if he moves up one more thing, I'm going to do it. And I'm sitting there thinking, really? But it's a case of, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to see if he puts that back in that fridge. And I'm sitting there thinking, really? Does it make any difference?
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things that just tends to wind people up. And it starts off as a Cold War, you know, it's like little things, you know, it starts subtly, and then it starts to escalate. It's a bit like the sort of roommate thing where people start getting on each other's nerves when they're in an enclosed space like that over silly things like that.
That's why I never wanted to share with my friends. Flat share. Just for the simple fact is they're my friends. I don't want to share with them and actually get to the point I could not avoid them.
Yeah, exactly.
But I knew what type of a flatmate I would have been.
Yeah. I was with Crichton on that one, though, definitely.
Oh, yeah. Definitely on Crichton's team for that one.
Yeah, definitely. But this was the one where Rimmer's back, and this is the one they're opening the things. Because remember, that this was the one with the I'll take 65. No, you take 65. No, you want me to take it. No, and he opens it, and that's when he finds the porn mag, Baked Bean Bombshells version 12.
And there's a big continuity error in this episode.
Whereabouts?
I think the scene with the lockers, because Rimmer is in his hard light form. Yeah, it's meant to be a flashback to the early days.
That's true.
So he should have been in the early uniform.
Yeah, he should have been in red, or he should have been in his khaki outfit.
Yeah,
because it's the same again. Rimmer, Lister is actually physically opening all this stuff, so they're implying he's in his soft light because he's not doing any of the work.
Yeah.
If it was a soft light, he could actually choose what one he wanted to open. But they didn't.
Yeah, so it's one of those scenes that doesn't quite work when you look at it.
Yeah.
Right. You know the link to Jonathan Creek in this episode?
Ooh.
Oh.
Do tell.
I missed that one.
The baked bean bombshells, version 12.
Really?
Remember the one with Jonathan Creek goes to... You've seen Jonathan Creek?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're rewatching.
Remember the one where he actually goes to the Creek conference? The Jonathan Creek conference. And the guy who always dressed up the same as him, and his wife would get upset, and she asked Maddie, what does he like? So she told her. And then when Jonathan comes into the house, she says, just come up. And she's sitting there in a bath of beans.
No, we haven't seen. I don't think I've seen that one yet.
I don't think we've got to that one yet.
Yeah.
It's one of the other ones with Maddie in it. So it'd be the first.
Well, because when you said Maddie, I thought, oh, okay, well, we'll be coming up on it shortly.
Yeah. We've just finished.
You'll notice it because there's things happening, and it's a conference with all the Jonathan Creek lookalikes. So you've got all the guys with the jackets like as cosplay. They're all dressed up.
I remember seeing that
all these mysteries. Yeah,
I remember seeing it the first time round.
Yeah, well, basically the baked bean bombshell, and it's because Maddie tells the girl that it's, and he comes up and she's lying in a bath of baked beans.
Yeah.
And then her husband comes in and thinks that it was his idea and bumps him.
Yeah.
But
poor old Jonathan,
yes,
yeah.
That it's me silly things like that. I sit and thinking, when you watching that, and that's why they used that joke. Because why would they talk about a porno mag called Baked Bean Bombshells?
Yeah.
Jonathan Creek was round about the same time. And I just thought, it has to have something to do with it. Or did they use that in Jonathan Creek? Somebody liked it and thought, there you go, there's a weird thing to do or say.
It could be.
But it is one of those things.
It could be.
It could be. But Blue was really poignant for one thing only. Everybody remembers the one thing Blue gave us.
Yeah.
Arnold.
I know. That was like one of those scenes where it was just like you were absolutely gripped and you were just like, watching and thinking, this is amazing, this great sort of poignant moment between the two of them, and then all of a sudden it like happens and you're just like,
That is just superb. Do you know the actual cast? See right at the end when they all come off, three of them are really angry and Kachansky is smiling. See after the song and they go, and the three of them are really annoyed and Kachansky is smiling.
Yeah.
That was real because she actually loved that part. And the rest of the cast hated it because they were all bruised and battered because they kept having to get the... And so they spent hours filming that part. So they did. And they hated it. So when they came off, it was annoyance, which was on their face, and that was real. Whereas Chloe Annette actually enjoyed it. So when she came off with a smile,
Craig Charles was really playing it there then.
So basically, it was the same idea. There was just every time you would think they would actually just say, right, we're going to do this, we've got this bit. Accordingly, no, they actually, whatever they did, I don't know if they had someone singing it at certain points, and they had to react well that somebody was singing it so they could get it and then cut it down to the bits they used. And I think that's what it was. But it was one guy singing all three parts.
Ah, right.
Was it one guy singing all three parts? I was watching something today, and something came up. I'm trying to remember. Oh no, do you know what it was? It was the Back to the Future thing. Ignore me. I just got the two of them mixed up because the two of them had a song in them. I'm sure it was the Back to the Future, but I'm thinking there was the one part. There was a song, and instead of actually having three people singing it, they got one person to sing it, and they just played the tape over 3 times, so it sounds as if he was harmonising with himself. Rather than play 3 different people, they played the one guy and he just recorded. They did a mix on it, so it sounded like there was a group. And I thought it was Red Dwarf, but it might have not been. It might have been the Back to the Future 4 thing I was watching. But that's a digression, so I suppose I better shut up about that one. I'm going off in a different TV programme that's going to annoy me. But Blue, I think, it's definitely one of my favourites in this season, and it's
definitely
the fact of the Rimmer song, the Rimmer Gallery.
Honest to God, that was the funniest thing with the little dancing Rimmers at the end, and it was so silly, but it actually worked.
There's something else. See when I was watching it, when I watched Quarantine, I thought, I wonder if they're ever going to sell a Mr. Furbo. Seeing that one, I wondered if they were going to sell a small Arnold. You think about it, the face just had to be printed on. The face had to be just need to print on, and then the wee teeny doll with a large head would have worked perfect. And there were so many of those different colours. You've got the blue, they've got the black, they've got the red. The multiple colours outfits he had on, because it was all the coloured outfits he had. And I'm sitting there thinking, I want one of them. No, not once did anybody actually decide that's a good idea. Let's make it.
I know.
Them. But then again,
we could have had
too much.
Yeah. We've got Baby Yoda now. We could have had Baby Rimmer then.
Oh God, I would have had 4 or 5 of them.
That was hilarious.
Oh, definitely. I would have actually. I just, when I saw it, I thought, I wonder, because you used to see dogs like that, they were basically only about that. And there was the big head, and it was material, and why didn't they actually bring something like that out? I just don't know. But then again, they were quite lax on their, even round about the time, they were quite lax on their merchandise, because T-shirts, they didn't have a lot out. Even now, you get the London Jets T-shirt, you get the Jupiter Mining Core T-shirt, or you get the occasional one that's got the Red Dwarf logo, or like the one I've got, the Smeg, like AC/DC, it looks like that.
Yeah.
But you don't get, you look at a lot of other things, Firefly, for instance.
They're massive merchandising campaigns.
They've got all the brown coats, they've got all the T-shirts, the shiny, all the shiny. They've got hundreds. But Red Dwarf,
it's so sad. Yeah, there should be so much more Red Dwarf merch.
And I think Red Dwarf merch, especially how well Promised Land did. Accordingly, that was quite successful. Why not bring it? They would still have people buying it.
Oh yeah,
but
definitely. I'm totally getting myself some Red Dwarf T-shirts soon.
Well, I was hoping to go to the Comic-Con this year or last year and do all my stock and re-up my stock, because my Stargate one is starting to peel. My Doctor Who one's fine, but my Red Dwarf one's fine. My Judge Dredd one's fine. That's just my faces. I've got about 4 or 5 other ones that I don't really wear because apart from the one that's got Lauren Hardy, the other ones are just either black or I just wear them when I'm going out and I don't care what I'm wearing. But I always like my stuff, and I usually every year I buy 2 or 3 just to keep my stuff up. Yeah. It's the same as my t-shirts. I do like my t-shirts.
Yeah.
We know, yes.
That's my Judge Dredd one. But I've got about 40 or 50 t-shirts, all with different things that I like.
Yeah.
But it's typical. How many do you wear?
Yeah, but it's like it's the most collectible kind of thing, really, you know, because I think it's probably the cheapest thing for them to produce as well.
Oh, aye.
You know,
you look at it. You look at a Primark. You can go to Primark, buy an Avengers T-shirt for £2.
Oh yeah, they've got like AC/DC. They've got a lot of classic, you know, bands, T-shirts and things you do see occasionally. So
yeah. I mean, I think I even got my Chewbacca onesie out of Primark. Yeah, I mean, they do have some great stuff. And the thing is, with the T-shirts, you don't expect the T-shirts to last you, but the amount of T-shirts I've got, I probably wear it once.
Well, that's it. I mean,
if I'm lucky.
Yeah, well, that's it. You're not going to be constantly wearing it.
Exactly. You wouldn't expect to constantly wear. I mean, because of the number of T-shirts I've got, I could go, some T-shirts I like that much, I'll wear them once, twice a month. Other ones, it's maybe once, twice a year.
Yeah.
But it's just the amount of stuff. But the Red Dwarf is the one I'm lacking because I've only got 2 bits of, apart from the cosplay, it's only 2 bits of Red Dwarf stuff for wearing, which is doesn't make me happy.
That must be an interesting market.
I've got more of those. Even my Judge Dredd, which is hard to come by in some respects, I've got more of those. I've got about 5 or 6 Judge Dredd things. But it's weird. But I still would love a wee Arnold drummer. I'll need to actually check what the SD or whatever it is. See if they do them.
I think that would be such a great piece of merchandise to have. And then if you were able to back then, you know, have one of those and then go to a con and have Chris Barry sign it, you know, I mean, what a great thing that would be. And it would probably give him a great laugh as well.
Oh, it definitely would. Especially if you actually basically, your cosplay was a wee roller coaster with a load of them hanging around it. There's an idea for a cosplay. A roller coaster with a lot of wee drummers around it. Oh God, seriously, I'm glad I can't actually model anymore and I can't do stuff. Because I would actually go, I'll try that.
Yeah.
But blue, definitely. It's some excellent parts in it. The Rimmer, Lister, Kiss, the Rimmer song, the Salad Cream. Although it still just highlighted the fact that they were just carrying that feud between Crichton and Kachansky. It made Kachansky look pompous, and it made Crichton look petty.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's still one of my favourite episodes of the season.
It is. It is. It's surprisingly good, and it's just it's definitely going to be one of my absolute favourite episodes. It's just so funny.
Yeah. Definitely. And the next one, Beyond the Joke. It's not one of my favourite ones, but I think it's one of the hardest for me to watch. Don Henderson, who played the simulant.
Oh yeah.
Ah, yes.
See his voice at the time. See that weird rasp. That wasn't that was him. He was terminally ill with throat cancer, and he died a few months after. after finishing.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't know
And
that.
I remember a lot of stuff he was in because he was one
Yeah.
of my favorite characters. Because he was in a lot of these things. He was.
I
But
recognized
when
him
that
as well,
he
and
died not long after that.
I was watching him and listening to his voice, and I was thinking, God, he is really familiar. I know I've seen him in other things.
Yeah, he did a lot of things. You would see him in things like the Sweeney and all these type of like the perfect. You would always see him as some type of a hard man, or he was a character actor.
Yes,
Yeah.
Because
he was a
with his look
classic
and his
character
voice.
actor.
Because he's look and his voice, you always used to get the hard man type look or the gang member or something
Yeah.
like that.
What
And
was his name?
He'd been doing it for years. Don Henderson.
Don
Yeah.
Henderson.
Yeah, he did.
Because basically Red Dwarf was his last one, and he basically died of cancer a couple of months after.
Oh, I
was
didn't know
finished.
that.
Aye.
Oh, bless him.
I
And
remember
do you know this
reading
was
Doctor
another
Who as
first?
well.
Well, this was another first. This episode. This was one of the first episodes not solely written by Doug. Do you know who the writer was in this one? This was one the story was meant to be completely different.
Robert Llewellyn and Doug Naylor.
Yes, Robert Llewellyn was the writer. Was the writer on it. His initial idea he was going to play in it a lot. He wanted to write it and make it very Crichton scarce. He didn't really want to have a lot of part in it. But it ended up he played 2 different parts in it, and he was in almost every scene. So he did. But he initially wrote it that Crichton was hardly in it at all. So he didn't need to get into all the makeup. But when Doug got it and did and tidied it up, they kept adding more and ended up adding Abel, and it ended up he was in it more than anybody else. Like that. But it's one of those things. I think there's a lot of good bits in it, but the thing about this is the sad part of it is that Don Henderson, it was one of his last things.
Yeah, bit bittersweet then. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just I remember seeing him in a lot of stuff growing up. So I'd heard, must have been about 6 months to a year after I'd seen that I'd heard he passed away not long after finishing it. So at the time, great story. There's Don Henderson in it, no problem. And even that Mrs. Bennett, Vicky Ogden. The only reason I remember her name because she was in Coronation Street. My mum used to watch it, and she was in it for not long. Only in it for a couple of times. It was her name because you used to have Hilda Ogden.
Yes.
When I first saw her name, I said to my mum, I didn't know her sister was in it. She says, no, that's the woman's actual name. So you had, was it Jan something played Hilda Ogden?
Jean Alexander.
Jean Alexander. I said Jan, didn't I? Jean Alexander played Hilda Ogden, and then it obviously had Vicky Ogden playing whatever. And I thought they got it round the wrong way, so I'd asked my mum. And she said, no. That's her real name. That's the only reason I remember it. She wasn't in it for a lot. She was only in a few episodes. But it stuck out just because my mum's favourite characters were the Ogdens. And I just saw her name. So I was talking to my mum that time. I thought it was Hilda Ogden's sister. And she says, no, that is the woman's name. So that name stuck with me. So when I saw it in Red Dwarf, I thought, oh, that was the only reason I remember her name, because of my mum's love for the Ogdens. Weird, I know, but there you go. And this one as well, I never understood what the beyond a joke reference was. All the other ones up until this one I could understand. Even the ones after it. could understand. The name of this one, I could not. Apart from the fact that Crichton was a bit peeved, and he ain't heavy, he's my brother and all that, but beyond the joke.
Yes.
Was that just the thing with that? The way they're treating me is beyond a joke. Is that it? But it just didn't seem to fit. But I don't know why.
I did like the part with Crichton though, when he gets upset because they're off into the artificial reality, you know, and he's prepared this sort of splendid dinner, and he sort of drops himself in there and goes after them. I did laugh, quite enjoying it.
Oh, he comes in with the tank, because he gets.
I thought the tank part was funny. It was the fact is the sisters and the mother see him.
Yes.
I said the dinner is out. Now do we understand each other?
Yeah, it was funny. I did enjoy that.
I thought that was funny. And even the part with the Vindaloo curries at the end, I thought was funny.
Yeah.
Well,
you knew it was coming.
We knew it was coming, but do you know the biggest peeve I had? Why would the cat... I could understand Lister, but why would the cat want to actually go into Pride and Prejudice world? Makes zero sense, because the cat didn't really go into... Lister was always in the VR, and you know why he was always in VR. Cat, you never really seen it apart from when he had to go in and help Crichton in the Women in the Apocalypse.
Yeah. But Cat was enjoying himself because then all the ladies were sort of giggling and sort of liking him and things like that, you know, and he was sort of, he's like, oh, okay then, you know, but then he was complaining about the outfit that he had to be, you know, that he had to wear and stuff. So it didn't seem like it was a normal thing for Cat to do. Yeah.
And how they could have convinced them to go into it. That was the thing I thought. But it was the fact is, why would any of them go into... I could understand why Kachansky, because that's her thing. But why would she be so adamant that the other ones actually enjoy it with her? That was, to me, it was another one of the overbearing. Our character's overbearing because she had to, which is no problem. But why did she have to get them to like it as well? Because you'll love it. Don't worry, you'll love it. All this, as if she had to convince them, but they were only there because she had convinced her, and she was adamant they were going to love it. Why would anybody think? Be the same as me. If somebody says to me, I really like this book, you will really love it. Right? Tell me a book, well, it's about this. Just because you like it doesn't mean I'm going to like it. It doesn't even sound anything I would watch or read. So why would you think? It's that type of thing. If somebody tells you like something because they like it, but they don't know what you like, or even if they do, they know it's not something you would read or watch or whatever. That's the part I don't understand, because Lister knew about Pride and Prejudice. He knew what it was all about. He might not have read the books, but he had an idea because you could see with some of the things he was saying and the way he talked as well in it, because he obviously had an idea that, yes, Miss Darcy, he was basically trying, or Miss Bennett or whatever, he was trying to talk the talk. But I just never understood why they thought that would be correct. Just, it was a weird one for me. I liked it for certain things. I found it sad, and I liked it because of that, because of the Don Henderson. But there was parts enough in it, it actually made me go, that annoys me. Stop doing it. Because she's in it. Robert Llewellyn playing Abel and Crichton was funny, because there's again, he plays the evil. Remember in Angels and Demons, the demon Crichton, he effectively was playing a watered down version of that when he so to me he was playing very similar to the demons Crichton.
Yes.
Whereas this one, he was obviously going for the junkie Crichton, but very similar. So
it was actually very. I was just chatting with Sadako in the chat. I didn't realize that Robert Llewellyn was playing Abel. I did think about it when I was watching it, and I thought, nah, I don't think it is him. He did it so well. The way he gave voice to the Abel character is sort of like this, like pothead, like a burnout.
Yeah, but did you not think the Abel character was very like his Angels and Demon Crichton?
I'm trying to think back to the episode. In my brain,
can't remember, apart from when he went crawling through, he crashed through the wall and grabbed Lister, and then he had Lister with the chip on him, and they were getting him to slap himself. And
okay.
The Crichton character sitting there going, hee, hee.
Yeah.
That is reminds me, if you look at the Abel one, it was almost that again. He was doing that same again, but it wasn't a vicious, or that, whereas the demon one, it was almost a cackling, whereas this one, it was almost, it was a, yeah, man. It was, as you said, to be junky, but it still had that similar cadence in the voice. So I knew it was Robert Llewellyn doing it, but I just thought because it was more bringing that part of it that back. It's the same again. You get to see, as I said, this season you got to see the alternate characters again. So you got to see Robert doing Abel. You got to see Ace. Thankfully, you didn't get to see, or unfortunately, you didn't get to see Dwayne. And you got to see an alternate Lister, even though he didn't really speak on the time fracture. You see the cat, but the cat could have been the cat didn't speak. Why the other three of them didn't speak? Because you think about it, it's not as if it was extras playing the part, it was the guys. So they're getting paid the same as if they speak in whatever. But those ones just not see anything. Apart from the shout.
A bit odd, yeah.
So the cat didn't really see anything, he just sort of stood there, but he looked the same. So it was an alternate version of the cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seemed
I thought that was odd. It just seemed like a missed opportunity there.
I think they should have done an alternate version of the cat. Because you know why the cat turned out the way he did?
Why?
Because Frankenstein got locked away with the menu and the clothes, and the war was about what colour hats was going to be at Fuchsal.
That's right,
The two arcs went different ways, and they left all the weak, the ill, the stupid, the crazy, and the cat was born to the idiot and the cripple. So he was left there. So in effect, he brought himself up, apart from the priest. It was still alive at the time. And he was so shallow, and it was all about him, because there was needed to tell him otherwise. If Kachansky got put in her ISO because she didn't turn the cat in, when she had it, what would have actually been there? No, it would not have been a menu and a route about his dream in Fuchsal. It would have been more something like Jane Austen or something like that. So the type of things that the reading material, it wouldn't have been the war. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So the cat would have been completely different, because if there wasn't a war about that, there could have still been a war about something else, but if there wasn't a war about that, then the cat wouldn't have been left on his own, and it's just, I don't know. It was bits like that. It just sort of, but the cat should have been different as well. Could have been more modestly dressed, and it's still the only one left, but I don't know. It could have given the opportunity to do something different with the cat rather than make him look the same. Right, I'm getting a buzz. Is that me, or is that?
I don't know. I heard a buzz thing as well. I don't think it's me.
No, nothing yet.
Right, I know what it is. believe it or not, my new setup is having just got a new setup, and the problem is my monitors, my big TV monitor, my 42-inch telly, the sound is starting to go every so often. So you should be okay now.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Can't do anything at this end.
I think it is because it doesn't normally give me feedback, but every so often when I'm watching something, it starts going, and then I have to switch it off, switch it back on, and it fixes it. Eventually, it's going to go, and I'm going to have to get a new set of speakers.
I get that with my computer monitor my speakers sometimes.
Yeah, it's my big TV. I've had it for years, and that's the only reason it's a monitor, because it is an old one.
Yeah.
And we got more modern ones. It's just that eventually it will go. But it's weird. So beyond the joke, what did you think?
I found something enjoyable in every single story, I have to admit, but I did struggle with the Crichton stuff a little bit, like the jealousy stuff still. Just going back now to look into the plot for that one.
No, the plot for this one was the
I've jumped ahead to the next one.
The anniversary, remember?
Yeah.
And then it was all about him getting jealous, and
that's the thing that it was starting to get on my nerves
and all that.
Yeah, it was getting on my nerves, the jealousy thing. There was some very funny things in it, where he comes into the simulation with the tank. That did crack me up. That was really funny.
Yes. And even the part about the information the simulant gave him about him being the joke.
Yeah.
Because it was a way to get back, and Lister said to him, the size of your groinal attachment, no wonder she was upset.
Yeah.
So there was good Red Dwarf.
There's something. They're all enjoyable on a certain level, but if you look at some of them, I mean, obviously, knowing that, you're so attached to the characters by now, and the characters so well, when the storyline doesn't quite fit the character, it starts to sort of stick out a bit more.
It grates.
Yeah, it starts to grate a bit. The next one, Epideme, I quite enjoyed. I thought that was interesting.
I loved the virus.
Yeah, I just love they gave the virus this sort of like car salesman sort of snarky DJ type.
They were originally looking at something else for that. Then they decided that they didn't want Shakespearean. So they decided they wanted to be, because it was such a dark episode, they wanted to give it humour, and they thought if they'd gotten for the Shakespearean actor they were looking at, it would have been too dark. Do you know who the Shakespearean actor they were wanting? Who was fan, who was already a fan, even though he'd thought about suing them.
Really?
Yep. They'd originally wanted Patrick Stewart.
I thought you were going to say Patrick Stewart. Don't ask me why, but it's the first one that popped into my mind.
Because he was the one that he basically said when he first saw it, he thought they were a copy, and he thought about phoning it, then he sat and watched it and realised it was a comedy, and he became a fan of it after that.
Yeah, that sounded.
They were going to ask him to do the Epideme, but they thought it was a dark episode, and they wanted something light, so they decided to make Epideme a car salesman type one, so it was more light-hearted. So it wasn't all about death and doom and gloom, whereas they thought Patrick Stewart's Shakespearean voice would have made it more dark, because you can imagine some of those lines delivered in a more somber way.
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't it have been fun?
No, it would have been a bit too much of a downer. That's what saved it.
That's why they went for the upbeat. That's why they went for Gary Martin.
Yeah, that was very funny. That gave me almost a Hitchhiker's vibe. That computer, not the computer, but the virus. It gave me a bit of a Hitchhiker's vibe, the way he was sort of talking.
I agree, but I must admit, I agree with Sadako 24 in this one. It's probably the most Red Dwarf story.
Yeah.
It was because you think about some of the best Red Dwarf ones, not necessarily the best shows in the season, but if you were picking out one that was typical Red Dwarf, doesn't mean just because it's typical Red Dwarf it's the best or the worst. You've got certain ones where you think that's good sci-fi, you got some that's good comedy, but you've got the occasional one where you say that's good Red Dwarf.
Yeah.
You used to get a lot of them in the first couple of seasons, even into season 3. There's not been a lot of typical Red Dwarf ones where they take something and make it so silly that it is really good. Confidence and Paranoia are probably one of the few I would say is definitely Red Dwarf, because it takes a premise and just twists it in its head, and it is just so funny, and you can just see it happening in Red Dwarf, which it does. And I think this one, Epideme, is just a Red Dwarf. Do you know why he wrote that one? I knew this at the time, so I did, because I was a big Jasper Carrot fan.
Oh, right, okay.
Oh, yeah, I remember him.
Jasper Carrot's one of his stand-up parts, his jokes were, what if you could talk to the flu, what would they say? Sorry, I'm just doing my job. Would the flu be a job's worth? I'm just doing what I'm meant to do. This is my job. You stop trying to talk. And he used to do a wee skit like that. And accordingly, Doug Naylor likes Jasper Carrot. And that's where he got the idea for Epideme. And then he just made it a bit darker. Because obviously Jasper Carrots was all about the flu, something that's not going to kill you, just making you feel crappy, and he's saying, but I'm just doing my job, you just stop, if I was stopping you doing your job, and all this stuff. It was the take the mickey out of what would the flu say if you could talk to it. So he basically wrote this based on that, which I knew at the time because I'd seen the Jasper Carrot sketch and I'd seen this and I thought because the Jasper Carrot had been repeated. I've got a couple of Jasper Carrot DVDs down here, and at the time I thought I just watched that and it's very similar because how did he do that? And it was basically after that I realised he's copied him because Jasper Carrots had been out for a while, so it had to be Red Dwarf copied Jasper Carrot or at least used it as a premise or something. And then obviously a few years later, I found out that's exactly what it was. And I was, yes, Jasper Carrot giving Red Dwarf some good stories. But it just goes to show you, Doug Naylor's actually got good taste in comedians.
Indeed.
Right. But there was some classic Red Dwarf lines in this as well.
Oh, yeah.
What type of navigation officer are you when you can't tell your right from your left? That's definitely one of the best come down, basically put downs ever. It was just so Lister. What type of navigation officer if you can't tell your left from the right? It's just so perfect.
But it's Lister's delivery of that as well is what makes it so good.
Yeah. The only thing I didn't like about this was when they were hunting for the nanobots.
I'm trying to remember.
No, it was
they found them in Lister's.
They found it in the second part of this one. That's what it was. Because Nanarchy was effectively, this was one of the other ones that they did what happened previously.
Yeah.
So the Ace Rimmer one, Stoke Me a Clipper, they basically started with Rimmer. Ace, basically what happened and how you got shot. This one, it was a previously on Red Dwarf, this is what happened. Mm-hmm. And then obviously that. But yeah, it was the fact is these two were almost a two-parter on that. See how it ended, where he lost his arm, his right arm, right, and it effectively ended there.
Yeah.
I didn't know until quite recently why Doug Naylor actually wrote this episode and the next episode.
Mm-hmm.
It was because when he was a kid, he lost his leg.
Never.
Ah.
I only found that out about, I think it was it must have been one of the most recent Red Dwarf magazines I'd been in, so it's probably about 4 or 5 months ago. They must have been talking about one of the series, and they were talking about the reasons behind certain episodes. And Epideme and Nanarchy, they were talking about the two because they said it's a good two-parter. And he says the reason I wanted that, especially the Nanarchy part of it, was to show because it's the type of things that go through your head when you lose a limb. And he says, did you know someone? He says, when I was a kid, I lost my leg.
Well,
that was quite a personal story then, really, for him.
So for him, it was a case of to show that the type of things it goes through your head. Some of the really not so much sad things, but some of the poignant things you think, but also some of the stupid things you think as well.
Mm.
And see, at the end of Epideme, I didn't realise that the first time I saw it, I didn't realise that they were going to finish Nanarchy the way they did. I thought this is where Future Echoes comes in. Because remember Future Echoes with the old Lister sitting up in the bed?
Yeah.
I thought this was where it comes in. And I thought it was going, and initially I thought from now on he was going to have a prosthetics, which to me would have been good because it would have shown somebody with a prosthetic actually still being able to do everything. I mean, I thought it would have been a good way of doing it. That's what I thought they were going to do. And then Nanarchy happened, and then it didn't. And I thought another one they could have continued that they seemed to cut quite sharp. Because there you go, they're already taken out the kids. They've already taken out the old man now. So the things that happened in Future Echoes, they basically get rid of. So they get rid of the twins and they get rid of the old man. So that was one episode that effectively just gets spinned because they couldn't. Really weird, I know. But it's amazing what you think about when you're watching them. And that's what I thought. It was the Epideme. It was a case of, here we go. Now you're going to actually wear a prosthetic. Obviously, rewatching it numerous times afterwards, we know it didn't happen. But I remember at the time, I thought, this is a catch-up. They're going to catch up to Future Echoes. With his arm.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they didn't, which was unfortunate.
Makes you wonder why sometimes.
The two-part was quite good. The first part about Epideme, how he lost his arm, and the second part in Nanarchy, how he got it back.
Well,
do you know the only thing about the very end when he got his body back? I was surprised they didn't do. It was very trope. It's a trope, and it was a trope for a reason because it is funny. How many times have you seen some days they've done some workout or the teacher and the woman goes, oh, and can't stop themselves touching the muscles? I thought they would have done that. But they didn't. She sort of just looks and stares. You could see all over her face she's wanting to actually just keep watching, but she tries not to. She tries to stay forward. But I thought they would use the trope of the hand coming up and get down, don't do that. I thought they would have used that as a joke because it would have worked because there she's no interested. You're a slob. You're the last man. But oh God, look at the body and that. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Didn't he? Which I was a wee bit disappointed with that.
Yeah, I think it was so like it was so overly done, that it was comical, and I think that's what they ended up with, was more like the comical look.
Yeah,
which she was a bit repulsed by as well. She was just like, oh my God, it was just it was overdone.
Yes.
And then Crichton sort of like slinks out. He's just like, I'm just going to leave now.
Yeah. And did you remember that? Did you notice the mistake? Sorry, a script mistake.
A script mistake, right?
Yes. Because remember, Crichton tells them how he would get his arm back.
Okay.
They said they would use his excess tissue, basically, meaning his excess fat, to rebuild. And then what happens? He's bulkier. So how can they bulk him up? They can't take the wee bit of podgy fat around his stomach and suddenly build all this muscles and broad shoulders and extra arms and all the bulk in his legs.
And what did they use? What pattern? What pattern were they working from?
So they're basically looking at the optimum. So I'm assuming they could actually try and get the optimum, basically, if they're building the cells, so they know how a blood cell works. They know how. But I could see that. But he said that they can rebuild his lost arm from his excess body tissue, which is implying he's fat. But Craig Charles wasn't fat and suddenly become muscular because they used all the body fat and just left these muscles. But they implied it was going to use extra. So yes, he would have maybe lost a bit of weight around his stomach and he would have been a bit more slimmer. But suddenly he's fitter, he's bulkier, and he's just more. So where did they get all that extra?
Yeah, I think it was just an attempt to make him.
It was for the joke, yes, but same again. They could have said anything. They could take anything and build it. All we need to do is give them protein. They could use the protein to build thingy. That would have worked because they could have used extra protein, but they didn't. It's the same again in the other ones where they say something that makes what happens wrong. That's what was meaning. It was the fact that they said it would use excess fat, and then suddenly he's bulkier. So how did he get excess fat or excess body mass?
Yeah.
That's the parts that I was meaning the script. They tripped up themselves again, the same as they did previously. When they did something, and like the Ouroboros, when he's talking about being his own father, that means the human race will never end because we're in a loop. Yeah, used to in a loop. But anybody else, basically, if you're the last man, as soon as you die, the human race is over. All you've done is just reset that wee loop. But as soon as you go on and die, it's not as if at the end of life you're reborn and start again. So it's just a loop in that part. So the fact that they said that then, which made the rest of that sentence mean nothing, and this one is where they said something that made the visual part silly. That's what was meant about that. It's the same again. They said something that they thought sounded right, but it made the visual joke less credible.
Yeah, I can see that.
I know I can be picky. I can't stop myself. I know I can be picky with these things. It's just
I see where you're coming from with that.
Enjoying it because I did enjoy it.
Yeah,
you get Holly back. Come on.
That was a definite punch the air moment. I literally came off the couch for that one. I was
that was a cheer loud moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was. And even the fact that he spoke to the audience, he broke the fourth wall.
That's right.
What was it? 3 million years and still kicking it, or something like that.
What does he say?
Well, that was the first time you've seen Holly since 3 seasons.
Yeah. That's why it was just such a great moment, and it was just like a definite punch the air moment.
Yeah, but
that's
the first time you've seen Holly in any form in 3 seasons. It's the first time you've seen Holly in the Norman form in 5 seasons.
If you had seen that at a con, where like there was a huge group of fans watching that, it would have been like a stand-up and cheer moment. Everybody would have really been going crazy.
Well, definitely. That's basically a jump up yes moment.
Yeah,
it's basically when he picks up the thing and it's just a hey dudes.
Yeah, all right dudes. Yeah, it was just a great way to finish that season.
Yes, and I thought, but the only thing it put me off was when they were hunting for them. It was a funny joke, getting the jar and going and then forgot him. That to me was a bit silly.
Yeah.
Because if it's on a subatomic
level,
the subatomic Red Dwarf, they couldn't see it. So in effect, it would have gone through the atoms in the jar. So him picking it up would have meant nothing because it can travel through the atoms if it's subatomic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was just a bit of liberty there. And stuff like that. I just thought it was a bit. It would have been better if he'd said, "Well, I've brought this Faraday cage. That means they can't go subatomic because of the energy through it." And then he does that. It would have worked a bit better. But he's just got a jar going ding, 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 and stuff like that. I just thought it's too silly. It was visually it was a funny joke. I'm no denying that. But you can get a really funny joke, and you can actually still go, but.
Yeah, they have to be careful if they're gonna go down that route. It's sort of a little bit of a minefield because they have to be either extremely accurate or just ignore that and just have fun with it.
Oh, definitely, and I think they had fun with it. I've no issues with having fun with stuff because yes, with Red Dwarf. When it comes to canon and stuff like that, we're quite happy to take it or leave it. However, it's sometimes they can take the Red Dwarf right out of it because it becomes farcical. Which Red Dwarf to me has never been farcical. It's been clever.
And slapstick at times.
And it can be slapstick, it can take the mickey, but it's never been a farce.
Yeah.
So because it's clever as well, so they could do the slapstick parts and like the bit with the arm. Take your thing, grab the ball, grab the ball, grab the ball, grab the ball. Like 2 official on time. And he says, "What? Every time I want to grab a ball, I have to take a rest for the rest of the day." It's that type of thing. So yes, but it's no farce. That is just a clever use of comedy, and I think Red Dwarf does those very well.
Oh, definitely, and again, it's a series that, having seen it much more with all the continuity now and seen it from the beginning, I'm just really loving it even more. I mean, I'd seen episodes here and there, but I'd never really been able to get the full continuity of watching from the very beginning. So I'm absolutely loving it.
I must admit, I normally binge. That's why I like my DVDs box sets, so I could just constantly watch them one after the other. I love doing that because I'm no great for. I used to it when I was a kid, having to wait a week. Wait a week.
That's right. We had to wait. Yeah.
I had to wait a week, and so you get used to it. But see, as soon as videos come on the scene, then DVDs, I basically would go out and buy them because I wanted to just sit and watch them one after the other, after the other.
Yeah, exactly. I think the only drawback to binging is that any sort of continuity errors become much more obvious because you're watching the episodes so close together. Whereas if you watch them like a week apart, you're not necessarily, unless it's a really glaring one, you might miss, anything that would have normally like thrown the episode off for you because it's been a week and you'd be going on memory from the previous week. But now we've got the ability to watch them at any time, binge them, so I think you naturally tend to see more things than you wouldn't have ever remembered,
I would say
watching it
yes
back then.
But unfortunately, the programs I used to watch when I was young was Flash Gordon and things like that. And those never started the way they finished. So they would always have the cliffhanger that Ming the Merciless fires the gun and you see Flash go fall out the door and you see the body falling. Tune in next week, and then next week it starts with he misses the butt, he fires a gun, and Flash jumps sideways, and he goes out the door, and then you see him hanging from the door ledge, and you're sitting there thinking, "That's not how it ended last week."
Wait a second.
That's kind of an obvious one. They used to do that all the time, so it always started similar to how it finished, but never quite. Because
is it because they reshoot the ending of the previous one to start off the next one?
That's what they used to do, but they would film the scene and then they would film it again with the part that they wanted to start the next one. So you would see him falling out, and then you see the ship and you see the body falling. The next one, you would see the ship and you see the body hanging. So basically, it tells you one, he's been shot and he's falling. The next one is he gets shot at, but he jumped out and he's hanging. So there was a tune in next week. How is he going to survive? But when you tune in next week, he wasn't in that much danger. So I grew up watching all those. I used to watch them all the time. I love Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers, the stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And they always used to end like that and start slightly different. They used to do it with Superman as well. Even some of the early Doctor Who's, they did it with. There was a slight variation. There was the one.
Yes.
It was a Pat Troughton one where he's hanging. I know they did it with Sylvester McCoy. There was one with him hanging down from with his umbrella, but there was one. It was a Pat Troughton one. He was sliding down a wall or something like that, and it was a and that was it. How it finished. Whereas when it started, it was sliding, and then a rope appears, and he grabs onto the rope. So it was a slight, but it was. You could see that was a couple of seconds before they cut that rope, but it wasn't. It was obviously they reshot that part so the rope would come down and he would grab it, but it wasn't as low down as implying that he was about to fall the previous week. So it wasn't an issue with me. I grew up with those ones. I remember I watched things like Champion of Wonder Horse and stuff like that. So there was always wee bits that were always overlaid, especially when there was a cliffhanger ending. Zorro with a cliffhanger ending. Has Zorro finally been cut? You see him getting jumped on by 3 guys as if he's down the ground. The next one, you see him jumping and he's rolling away. It's basically, so I grew up with that. So I do. The thing is, but even then, I used to notice them, but it didn't bother me because I knew that is an ending. That is a typical Hollywood cliffhanger ending. That's how they used to do it. Because they wanted people to come in next week into the cinema, because you never watched them on the TV, you saw them in the cinema.
That's right. So
they wanted you to come in, and yes, you were busy, and you would only see maybe that one movie or that one thing in a Saturday. So it wasn't a major issue. However, nowadays, yes, I do notice them still, and I did notice them then. Doesn't bother me too much, but it can take me out for a split second if it's too much. But-
Captain Hipster Spock says, "Champion the Wonder Horse."
Yep.
Yeah.
Champion the Wonder Horse. I remember the song as well. Every Saturday I used to watch that. Zorro, Banana Splits.
That's it.
You had Aqua Boy. You had Stingray. It basically.
Oh yeah.
I grew up every Saturday. That was that. Every day when I was going to school, my mum had to drag me out of my bed at 8:10. I stayed literally right across the road. I could go out my front door, down the stairs, across the road, and in the school. So I could literally leave 2 seconds before the bell was ringing, and I would still be in time because I was that close to school. Saturday mornings, I was up at 7 o'clock, sitting in front of the TV because it was all about to start, and I had the TV until 12. Even my mum and dad wouldn't actually interrupt me watching the telly, and that was every Saturday. That was me. So I used to watch everything. It was on the Saturday. I loved it all.
We used to get all those things in the days before things like Swap Shop started.
I was a Tiswas boy.
And me.
Mm-hmm.
I did
watch Swap Shop. I did watch Swap Shop because I wanted to see what was on what was being swapped.
Yeah, I did see Swap Shop, but once I discovered Tiswas, that was it.
Tiswas. This is Saturday. What a Saturday!
Yeah.
TISWA. This is Saturday. What a weekend! Tiswas. Something like that. It wasn't it? All right. What? No, this is Saturday. What a Saturday! TIS.
Yeah.
When you really looked forward to it, yeah.
Oh, aye. The Phantom Flan Flinger, Spit the Dog, Cough the Cat. Yeah, I mean, Trevor McDonagh. Lenny Henry used to do his newsreader. Was it taking him Mickey? It was a parody of Trevor McDonald.
Yeah.
The most iconic newsreader at the time. You had him and Angela Ritten. It's probably the two most iconic newsreaders at the time. And I think even Trevor McDonald actually appeared once or twice on Tiswas because of Trevor McDonagh, and he would sit talking to him. And it was just one of those things, but it was never done nastily. It was always done in fun. And I think Trevor McDonald actually saw it was fun and actually came on occasionally just to actually chat with Lenny and his Trevor McDonagh. And that was the fact is it was McDonagh. They used to do some weird and wonderful stuff on Tiswas. I loved it.
Yes, it's good fun that was.
Oh, it definitely was. They did an adult version at night and a Saturday night after a year or two. Not for the kids. I can't even remember what it was called. I think it was something like Tiswas After That or something like that. I can't remember, but yeah, they used to actually do that.
I remember that because I was too young then. I wasn't allowed to stay up to watch it. Way too young.
I was. I'm trying to remember the year when it came up, but I think I was actually starting to come into. I was a teenager, so, and I had a portable because my mum used to call me Square Eyes. You ever seen the program Dream On?
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. And basically, it was. It's Martin Tupper, and it was. And any time he was thinking about things, it was always his TV programs because he grew up watching the telly. So anytime he was having a thought, it was always something from an old TV show. That was the whole premise of it. It was a comedy, but it was an adult comedy about these two guys, Martin and his pal. And Martin had grown up watching the TV, sit in front of the TV all the time. And it was always something happened. And you would see Martin, instead of a thought bubble, it was a TV show, an old TV show of the type he used to sit and watch. To me, that's how I grew up. I used to do that. And as I was growing up, yes, it would be, I would hear something and I would hear the tunes to the Banana Splits or something silly like that. That's why I love Dream On, because that was my life. But the only difference was he was American, I was Scots. I can't even remember the guy's name. That just goes to show the character name, Martin Tupper.
Yeah, for our generation. I mean, I'm 52. I mean, that's how it was.
Yeah, it was. I'm 56, so yeah, you're definitely. It's just that was the way for things to go. You wanted to watch the telly, don't go out at night then. End of
Yeah,
story.
that's
There's
right.
no recording it, nothing.
You
I
had your
remember,
priorities, you
yeah,
wanted to see something on the telly, you just had to stay home and watch it.
yeah, if you were allowed to watch it, because if your
Mm.
mum was watching something, your dad was watching something, your sisters were watching something,
Mm.
you were second last in the list. Well, I was, because I had a younger brother, but I had three older sisters, my mum and dad. So we all had the priorities, and me and my brother were the last two, except on a Saturday. I had the priority because it was the only time I had priority.
And you had
I
to
was up
make
at the clock in the
the
morning.
most of that.
Oh, I definitely. So I used to love watching the TV, and that's how I grew up. And that's what I liked about Red Dwarf, because Red Dwarf, it was one of those things you had, like, if you're watching the Banana Splits, there was typical Banana Splits moments. There was Tiswas moments, things that you'd only see in Tiswas. Red Dwarf, there's things you would only see in Red Dwarf. Like Epideme, it was a very Red Dwarf episode.
Yeah.
You couldn't imagine that anywhere else and working the way it did. But Red Dwarf, perfect. You imagine Star Trek talking to a virus. They did one where there was subatomic life forms, but it was forgettable. But anytime you show someone a hey, and it basically reflects that that's epic. That's from Red Dwarf. It's just iconic, typical Red Dwarf, and that's the thing I like about Red Dwarf. It had specific things you could say are Red Dwarf. Could you imagine any other program doing quarantine with "Hello, my name's Mr. Flibble"?
No.
No, you can't imagine that in any,
Yeah,
even if it's
exactly.
comedy, even a comedy. No, but
And
it's
the curry monster from DNA. That's unique.
oh,
Uniquely Red Dwarf.
exactly.
You
Or
couldn't
when
see Star Trek
even
doing
when
that.
even when they copy another franchise, they Red Dwarf it.
Yeah.
The Curry Monster and the Superhuman. Here, let me get it. He's dressed as RoboCop.
Yeah.
Don't, I'm too short, I can't keep up. And he's like that. Yeah, I mean, it's things like that. Even when they're copying something, they're copying it to the point where it's recognizable enough to know that's a homage rather than a parody or a Mickey take, but it is still unique enough that it's Red Dwarf. And the last two episodes, I think, were very Red Dwarf.
Yeah.
Epideme and
Yeah.
Nana. Yeah. Even though I had that wee issue with them,
I thought that was
it was funny, but just because it's a subatomic particle, how can they catch a subatomic in a jar? Didn't work for me. But it didn't make it less funny. It was still a funny scene. The rebuilding of Rimmer's body, and then right at the end, the big reveal. There's Red Dwarf. Do you know that wasn't even a model? That was stock footage because they still hadn't replaced the model. The last time the model was ever seen was Angels and Demons. When they blew up the model. They blew up the model, but they had a spare, obviously an older one, which had broken. That's why it disappeared. They reckon somebody nicked it. But the last time you saw it on screen was Angels and Demons, where they blew it up. And that was just stock footage and CGI. That wasn't a model again, because I think the model doesn't appear until season 9 or 10. They've got a new model, I think. Because I'm sure it's not season 8. It's definitely not season 9, actually, because season 9 is Back to Earth. I think it's maybe season 10. They build a new model. But next week, season 8.
Yeah.
So he's looking forward to it next week.
Yes, we're going to start watching that tomorrow. Well, it's a rewatch for me.
Well, tomorrow I've got Zulu to watch again. I've watched it twice.
Excellent.
This week. I watched
great.
it twice this week. I've got to watch it again. If I get time, another twice. But as I said, I'm fixing my wife's hard drive. I've actually got bits and pieces lying all over. I've got the laptop sitting here in pieces, and I've got so. But
Yeah.
I've got 2 episodes. I'm going to watch Zulu twice. I'm going to do a Logan's Run stream on Saturday, and then I'll start watching Monday, Tuesday. I'll start watching season 8.
Yeah, I'm doing a couple of things on Saturday. I've got possible other stream that I'm going to be doing, and then I'm doing having another quick stream as well on Saturday. So I think that's going to be a crazy day.
See, the thing is, I changed my stream to Saturday. It's because everybody I want to watch is streaming on a Sunday, so I can't watch them if I'm streaming.
Oh, there's so many good. That's the problem. There's so many good streams around right now.
I either miss all the ones I like, or I basically don't stream. But the problem is, I can't stream the Tuesday because Daniel streams, so I don't want to clash with Daniel because I know I'll my go whoop. So I'm not clashing with Daniel. Can't do it Thursday because Thursdays usually captains. I usually catch captain most nights, but he does his streaming on Thursday, which I like. And then you got Friday. You've got the fathers. I usually go on that one, and then there's Friday night tights. Saturday and Sunday. There's a lot of the ones on Sunday I want to watch. So Saturday's the only one that actually works for me. Saturday and Monday, there's no way I'm doing Monday and Wednesday.
I know that you start running out of days of the week.
Yes. Unless I start doing what the captain does and actually just wait until about 12 o'clock at night and actually start broadcasting then. But even then, it's just one of those things. That's why I was thinking of going back to just doing one live stream a week and just doing a video that I can upload over the weekend. But I don't like doing it. I actually enjoy speaking live and enjoy chatting to people. That's why I like the father's Friday afternoon stretches. He does just prior to Friday night tights. Because
we've been watching Doctor Who chat is back now as well. So we were finding Friday night tights was taken. We love it, but it was taking quite a while to start.
Aye. That's why I went on to the fathers, because the father goes on from about 9 o'clock, usually the hour before, but it usually turns out to 2 hours because of rain. But as soon as the stream starts, Friday night tights, he stops, and that's it. So he just basically, it's all just a warm up. All the smaller channels all sitting gabbing, doing what the Friday night tights do, and I like that. I must admit, it's just a fun way. That's what I was saying. They were talking. It was Mr. Brown and the captain and Problem and not Brian Young and Scotty. They were all chatting and they were saying that they in effect we all do similar as. They all do the same as the big channels. So you've got Nerdrotic on Friday Night Tights. You've got channels with 200,000, 300,000, all these guys. So they've got like 7,000 odd. And they said, and Mr. Brown was saying, his channel was talking about the same stuff as they were talking about. Yet some of the people were saying they preferred his discussion. And he didn't know why. Because we're in the hundreds. Some of us remember and subscribe. I've only got 60. I've not even got 60 yet. But some of us, so you're talking about the hundreds, we're in the hundreds, they're in the hundreds of thousands. And he says, why do people see ours as better? And I think it's one big difference. It is the fact is we see something in the chat, we'll chat about it, we'll talk to the people in the chat. There is engagement with the people in the chat.
Exactly.
Because we don't have hundreds and thousands of people watching. Their chat, you just look at their chat and it goes brrr, and the only time you see people chatting in the chat is when they're chatting to each other. There's no chatting to people on the stream because there are too many people that they could actually talk what they're talking about and pay attention to the chat. And that's what I said. Our smaller channels are great because we can engage with the chat. That's why I like
with the bigger channels. Yeah, with the bigger channels, it's great. It's they're very entertaining. They're wonderful, but the only ones that usually get a shout out are the ones that have done like a super chat or something like that, because there's too many people for them to be able to shout everybody out. So it's not a fault of theirs. It's just there's so many people in the chat, they can't. And yet with the more with the channels that aren't quite as big, you, as you say, you have that intimacy there. You have that ability to really engage with people in the chat and people that are watching. So it's definitely much more enjoyable in that regard.
Yeah. There's two good points. One, Sadeko says basically the big channels you feel as if you're voiceless. It can be a bit of echo chamber, and the captain says smaller channels are more swearing.
Yeah.
But I don't fucking swear. Very rarely. I try not to swear just because my father-in-law's a minister, so I try and actually, in case he actually is tuning in, I try not to swear. That's my excuse. But
that's fair enough. I do like a good swear every once in a while. It is quite therapeutic, but certainly it is nice to sort of take into consideration people that might be watching as well.
Yeah.
But there's also the aspect of it is, yes, sometimes you need it. The only thing it can actually describe exactly what you're thinking is swearing, because it's an all-round. It gets to the point. But
when it's gratuitous and it's constant all the time, it loses something and it just becomes painful to listen to. But once in a while, it really does get the point.
Without swearing is exactly that. But if somebody constantly swears and every second word out of the mouth is a swear word, what have they got to say?
Takes the novelty out of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What have they got to say? Because if somebody can articulate without using a swear word every second word, if somebody's actually, there's enough swear words out there that don't need to swear. Smeg, fake, what's the Battlestar Galactica one? Frack.
Yeah.
Frack.
So there's a lot of words out there that if you said them, they say the same wording, it's the same sentiment. It's the same as Billy Connolly. Connolly, he had the sketch Gettifer. Gettifer means go away with yourself. Yabasa means the personage I do not like. Whereas if you put it together, Gettifer Yabasa.
Yeah.
It's not a swear word, but it means go away, personage I don't like. And it was the same idea. It was because people were constantly saying he swore. And he says, but I only swear in my live shows. When I'm on the TV, I don't swear because it's the audience I'm doing to. If you're doing to an audience, does it matter? And that's the thing. If you're speaking and want to put it across, the swearing is unimportant, but sometimes, yes, a swear word gets a point across if you need it to get across.
It's also a good... Yeah, and it's also a bit of levity. It's also a bit of a pressure valve release, and a good laugh at something like that is really, really good. It can really just break any sort of tension or anything like that. And I always find it really funny when it's done in that way.
Yes, it's the same as sometimes even the opposite sometimes gets that release. You've seen the ones, especially they do it on TV. They go off, flip. It's the knowing fine well what somebody's going to say can break the tension, even if they twist it. It's like when you see, that's what I'm saying, when you see on the TV and somebody goes off, flip.
Yeah.
It's an innocuous word, but you know what they wanted to say, but they get the feeling across without actually saying anything bad. So everybody knows exactly what they were saying, even though they didn't. It's the same as smeg, fracket, fake.
Yeah. Very super funny.
You know what those words are, but they're no swear words under any.
South Park did a really funny episode where I think I forget what set them off, but it was somebody complained or something about swearing or something like that. I can't remember how it set them off, but they then did an entire episode dedicated to swearing, and they had a if you'll pardon the expression, they had a shit counter up at the top of the episode, and every time somebody used the word, the counter would go.
Yeah, it's the same as not the 9 o'clock news. Remember their song at the end, their very last episode, their song?
Yes.
That song, they didn't know right up until the last minute if it was going to get broadcast.
Wow.
And it was only when they actually put it, and it was the kind of lingers.
Oh, God.
And it was a song about how the memory of you kind of lingers.
Yeah.
But obviously, you can the expression, and they basically. So when you're saying cheerio, you say cunnilingus to you. It's because your memory of you kind of lingers, and it was basically all in it. But they didn't know if they were going to get that broadcast right up to the last second. Yet the words they were using were quite adequate. They weren't rude. They were just implying a swear word.
Well, one of the bands I used to follow years ago was Extreme, which was they kind of had a heavy metal hair band type vibe, but they did end up, their biggest hit ended up being a bit more of a popish sort of ballady type. But they had one song in their repertoire called "Get the Funk Out," and I can remember when it first came out, a lot of the radio stations were getting complaints because people thought they were saying something else.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually a very clever song because they were
one of the first to do it.
They weren't saying it. They weren't swearing.
Because they did not. There was not a similar one, but it wasn't as bad because Get the Funk Now, Funk Soul Brothers or something like that, and it was the same idea, but it wasn't as bad because there was already precedence for it, and it's probably been ones like that. But I remember I can't even remember, it was a B. It's that long ago, it was vinyl. It was a B-side, Friggin' in the Riggin'.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we all knew what that meant, but they weren't really saying anything bad.
That's
so
another...
Go, what are you listening to? It's a song called Friggin' in the Rigging. It's about pirates.
Yeah. That was the term that was popular in like the 70s, 80s when I was growing up, was frig. You would say frig instead of the other word, you would. And that became like the buzzword to use for a while.
Yes, as the captain says, shut the front door.
Yeah.
Oh, Sex Pistols, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Sex Pistols, they were actually trailblazers.
Well, they started all that.
And basically, Johnny Rotten is he's still actually basically telling people exactly what he thinks.
He's a great character. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you look at the stuff he said about the virus, but you look at what Johnny Rotten and the Sex Pistols said about the Savile. And it basically got it got censored.
Yeah.
He came out in the 70s and said that it got censored. So that's why they were never on. It was nothing to do with the swearing and stuff like that. It was the fact is they couldn't control them what they said.
That's right. They couldn't control the narrative, could they?
They couldn't control the narrative, so it was not. They weren't allowed on the TV.
Yeah.
So, but he still says the same. He's still out there saying exactly as it is, and that's why occasionally when you see him on, it's usually on some of these ones they class as right wing, which means as in they speak what
because
they
they're allowed to speak a bit more. Yeah.
Yes, but it's that type of thing. So there you go. I've used the whole 20 hours of my this month, and that was not broadcasting at least one weekend. So if I broadcast the weekends, I'm going to have to actually purchase StreamYards. And I will go into Mr. Brown's one and use his link so we can all get stuff out of it. So I'm going to actually have to do it. So eventually I'm going to get rid of that powered by StreamYards icon.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go ahead
and get that. Yeah.
I'm going to have him up there. But anyway, I'm going to have to go because I'm definitely looking at the time, and I'm actually at the point, as I said,
we're the same. We're hanging on by a thread, but it's been absolutely brilliant as always.
Thank you very much. As always.
Really enjoyed it.
I do enjoy talking Red Dwarf with yourselves, and every one of the guests I've had on. It's just been fantastic. Knowledgeable people, Sadako, nosy stuff, yourself. It's the fact is we can all enjoy it, and we can really appreciate what we don't know about it.
Yeah.
And that's the good thing. How many times have we watched it, yet somebody will say this, and you go, oh, I've missed that. I need to watch it again.
Yep.
And that's the good part about a decent programme.
It's been great rediscovering it again, because I've not seen some of the early series for many years. And since we've been doing these chats, I've been watching them on BritBox and things and catching up and thinking, this is a great series. It really still stands up.
Oh, it definitely is. And I think
one of the great series.
Yeah. And it's iconic. And the good thing is, I think they'll not make another one, unfortunately. But they'll never ruin it. Because even 2 years ago when they brought out Promised Land, when they were filming Promised Land, Needy turns around and says, you need to include this. No, because it included it, and it included it perfectly well. So nobody can actually go in and say, but it didn't cover this. I did.
Yes.
Yep.
Everything we needed. It was great. Anywho, thank you very much for coming on.
Well, thank you for having us.
Always a pleasure.
It just goes to show that the last time I read the chats, I was just reading the chats there. So, thank you very much for coming on. And there's a link to Darren's Facebook page. It's in the link, and I will put the link to your webpage in there as well.
That's right. Yeah, my new author website, which I actually put together for me the other day.
Ideal. And remember, guys, I am streaming on Saturday, Logan's Run, but I'll be on the Captain's channel tomorrow, Zulu, fantastic war movie. And with, I believe, Daniel and Charlotte as well.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
And Logan's Run on Saturday, so I'm looking forward to them all. But thank you very much for joining us, and hit the like button, leave a comment. Accordingly, it hits the algorithm. I don't know. Not big enough to actually find out. And subscribe if you're not subscribed. Thank you very much. And remember, I'm not old. I'm classic. BJ may be out.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.